the picture, the real big St. Louis sports picture. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Well, we're still planning on competing this year. We have a lot of baseball games to play. We expect to try to win as many as possible. But, clearly we did change the look of the bullpen. Now we'll see some guys that come up from AAA, get some different opportunities, and we'll see how that looks. But our goal is still the same. We're going to try to win games.
That was John Mozeliak yesterday speaking with the media following the Cardinals at the deadline alongside Tanner Hendrickson and Bradford Bruns. I'm Brandon Kiley. You've got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Alex is out today. His daughter is having her birthday. They're going to the zoo. Congratulations to the Ferrario family. We will talk to them on Monday. T-Bone, the thing that I almost did it already. The thing that I learned yesterday is something that I've been trying to avoid. And it hit me in the face this morning like a cold dead fish as I was reading Lynn Worthy's column, who writes the following in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, quote, "Let the auditions for the 2028 Cardinals begin. If that comes off as a smart aleck remark, well, it's only about 1/3 as snarky as it seems." He then referenced this quote from John Mozeliak in his press availability yesterday as well.
It's hard for me to speak on 26 other than I can say that the goal of this trading deadline period was about the future. And I don't think it's necessarily about the immediate future. It's about the long-term view of the St. Louis Cardinals.
T-Bone, as I hear that, as I watch the Cardinals right now, as I think about where they're at, all I can think to myself is, man, this is a rebuild. They're in a rebuild. Now, it's not a full teardown, and it shouldn't be a full teardown. I hate tanking. I think it is one of the worst things to happen in Major League Baseball, and now as you see more and more teams do it, and as they've changed the rules for the draft lottery, I don't think it has the same value that it once did, and what you end up doing is you become the Chicago White Sox, you become the Athletics, you become the Nationals, you become the Rockies. It sucks, and it's a perpetual cycle of you just continuing to be bad, and then you start to get a little better, and then you get bad again real quick. There is absolutely no guarantee that you come out of it. Look at the Miami Marlins, who maybe starting to come out of it right now. They're a ripe 52-55 on the season.
Hey, we're right
it takes a really long time. But T-Bone, this is a rebuild. I don't know when the Cardinals are going to get good again. It sure doesn't seem like the answer to that question is 2026. And so right now, in this week, really, I had that really bad show on Monday, and I couldn't help myself, and I got into a little bit of a funk when the TK Roby news came out. And I think it was all because I'm coming to the realization that so many of you probably already had, which is the St. Louis Cardinals are in a rebuild, and I hate that. It sucks. It is not a fun realization to come to.
Yeah, hearing that comment, I was like, maybe I was still a little bit in denial too going into the deadline. Like I kept saying, like, hey, I hope they target like arms that are close, right? They need pitching. Hopefully they can do that. And then when they acquired, I think it was 4 of the 6 pieces that they got in return at the trade deadline were all in the high A level. And then I hear the comments from John Mozeliak yesterday about, hey, this isn't about the immediate future. It's about the long-term view. Yeah, okay, yeah, we're at a rebuild. That's where the Cardinals are. They have decided that they can't fix what is really, I think, their biggest problem, their pitching. They can't fix it in the next couple of years because position player-wise, they're kind of there. They've got some nice pieces. They're missing the superstar. I don't know how they were going to acquire it, but at least they've developed good, solid big leaguers that are good complementary pieces on any team that you would put them on. The problem is they just don't have the pitching, and when you don't have the pitching on top of you don't have the star, it is hard to figure out what your path is going to be, and especially when ownership's going to probably cut payroll going into next year, not be willing to spend on it. So what do you do if you're Chaim Bloom when you take over? You basically say this is going to be a rebuild. I need 3 to 4 years to try and really figure this thing out by drafting and developing, trying to trade away some more pieces probably in the offseason to get some more prospects back and just really revamp this minor league system. Yeah, they are officially there. They are the spot that they've tried to avoid. I remember I think it was after 2023 where John Mozeliak said something to the effects of, hey, a rebuild is not acceptable in St. Louis. They tried to avoid it. They couldn't do it any longer. They are finally there, and they've finally accepted their fate.
Okay, so I just mentioned the Marlins, right? and where they're at in the standings right now compared to the Cardinals, and you said, oh, they're like right there. Over the last 3 seasons, since the start of the 2023 season, the St. Louis Cardinals are 209 and 224. That's their overall record. Since the start of the 2023 season, the Miami Marlins are 198 and 232. In other words, you're like 7 games better than the Marlins over the last 3 seasons.
And they've had 1 playoff appearance compared to you.
That is the same record as the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Oh.
The Marlins record. You're only a few games better than 2 teams that we would classify as being significantly worse than the Cardinals. The Reds are 7 games better than you over this stretch of time. The Giants are 5 games better than you over this stretch of time. The Cardinals now, for the past 3 seasons, their peer programs, their peer teams in the National League are teams that are considered to be not only on the bottom half of the league, but the bottom dwellers, teams that other contenders don't even think about right now. That's your company that you're keeping right now. And so it is probably time for all of us to acknowledge that. It's not a fun thing to do, but I asked this on Twitter earlier today at BK Sports Talk. It's just a quick poll for you guys. When do you think the Cardinals will make the playoffs again? 2026? 2027, 2028, or 2029 or beyond? When you think about that question, T-Bone, what would your answer be? 26, 27, 28, or 2029 or beyond?
I would say 2029 or beyond.
Good Lord, man.
I know that's an unpopular answer, but
I think that's a crazy answer.
What would you vote on this? By the way, 26% of people are with me. It's not like the 5% that say
people are
2026.
Down. People are down. I would say if we're playing baseball in 2027, I would probably select 2027 because I'm not sure how long the ownership is really going to want to be going through this. But if we're not playing baseball in 2027, I would probably be with Lynn Worthy and say 2028.
Yeah, I think it's aggressive on 2027. 2028 I thought about, but I think the reason for me is I think they're going to be revamping this minor league system, and yes, they're going to churn through players. Like, they're going to be drafting new guys at the upcoming draft next year, and they'll be having high picks probably for the next couple of years. They'll trade away some pieces. Like Lars Nootbaar, if they trade him in the offseason, could get them a decent return. But like, I'm even thinking like the way that they seem to be targeting more of the lower levels of the minor leagues. Okay, so I'm thinking 2 years maybe for these guys to get to the fringe of the big leagues. Maybe some of them start to creep up. So I'm already to 2027. And then I add in okay, they're probably going to need 2 years to kind of start to figure this thing out at the big leagues. And I'm not as convinced as you said there of, I think ownership's not going to be able to stomach this. I think ownership's already showed they're willing to stomach this.
Well, they've done this for half of the season so far. Stomaching anything. Last year, the attendance didn't really drop.
They've been very cautious in their moves when things were already starting to blink. Like going into 2024, like the red light was blinking of, hey, this is probably a problem. And their answer was Lynn and Gibson are our solutions to our pitching.
The red light was blinking for us. The red light was not blinking for them. The alarm bells for them are revenue. Let's be honest here. That is it's a business, dude. What they are operating right now, this is not some ma and pop shop. This is a business that they are operating. And that is how most owners in Major League Baseball that are not, the Mets, the Dodgers, etc. Most owners in Major League Baseball operate it as a business. And the business arm of the St. Louis Cardinals was still doing well as the product on the field started to diminish. Where that has changed is this season, as the butts are no longer in the seats. Even as the butts weren't really in the seats over the past few years, we could all see it. It was starting to come. Dude, those tickets were sold. This year, the tickets are not sold, which means that revenue stream is starting to dry up as the TV revenue streams have already started to dry up. So now is the first time that we have really seen them deal with it, and we've done it for 6 months. So I don't know if we know just yet exactly how the Cardinals are going to respond to this.
Sure. I think some of that's fair. I would say that they scream an organization that will do the the endless spinning cycle of, hey, we're not going to spend on the team's not going to be good, so if butts aren't going to be in the seat, we're going to use that as the excuse to not continue to throw money at our problem. I think they're just going to be in that cycle until they get good again, and then they start to draw people back in, and that's why I say 2029 or beyond. This is not an organization. I do not expect the DeWitts to go out there and deficit spend to try and bring people back, even if you say, like, hey, 2 years, 2027, maybe they become a playoff team, maybe they miss barely. Let's say they're like a fringe team that just misses. If people aren't there, they're not spending that money saying, yeah, we're going to bring them back. I just don't see that from the DeWitts. There's nothing that screams they would be willing to do that, in my opinion.
We've never seen it. And I don't mean that as we've never seen them deficit. We don't know how they respond in this situation because it hasn't happened. For 25 years, they have not been put into the situation that they currently find themselves in. For 25 years, the Cardinals have drawn fans every single season. They came back for McGuire, and they stayed ever since because it started in 98 with the home run chase. People got excited. They were drawn to the stadium for that reason, right? And then they get really, really good. They become the team of the 2000s in many different ways and had all-stars everywhere, future Hall of Famers all over the diamond, a team that you could really latch yourself onto. And then there was a new ballpark that was constructed here in St. Louis. That was part of the draw as well, along with obviously a consistent winner. They went not only to NLCSs seemingly every single season, they went to the World Series once every 3 to 4 years, it seemed as though. And then in 2014, that all stopped. You get to 2015, you've got another 100-win season, and then starting in 2016, everything changed. You no longer have the draw of a brand new ballpark. You don't have the draw of future Hall of Famers to the same degree. They're not in their primes any longer. You start to see the team performance on the field decline. You start to see somewhat the attendance decline, but it wasn't really showing up in the paid attendance numbers. So we have not seen them respond to this kind of a critical mass in their entire ownership tenure here in St. Louis. So I don't know how they respond. That's my honest to God answer. I don't know. If I had to guess, I don't think they're going to be throwing $450 million at superstars. I don't think that's the way they respond. I do think that there's going to come a point in time, though, in the next couple of seasons where they say, we can't just keep being bad because that's even worse for our bottom line. So I think they will spend. I don't think it will be on superstars, T-Bone, but I think they're going to stabilize this thing and try to get back to the playoffs as soon as humanly possible. That's my guess. Because this is a team that has operated that way for a really long time of we've got to at least try to get in.
Yeah, I see. If I have to question, I'm going to lean towards they're not going to do what I think is necessary for it to happen. I just, and maybe I'm the one that is at the all-time low with the fan base right now. I just don't see their path of them saying we will do a little bit of deficit spending. And again, I'm with you. I don't think the answer would be throw $450 million at Kyle Tucker to solve their problem. If we're being honest, that wouldn't even solve their problem. But I just
it's a long way to hope.
But I can't see them saying we'll add an extra $30 million to payroll to just help us try and stabilize things. I don't think they're there. I think they've decided that it's time to rebuild, and once they maybe start to get out of it, then they will get to that point. But again, that's where I come to. I think it's 2029 or beyond. I think this is going to be about 4 to 6 year plan that Chaim Bloom's going to have to try and fix this thing.
Yeah, if that's the case, I would just question the plan. I don't think that you can plan 4 to 6 years in advance if you're a baseball team. You go back 4 years ago. Think about how much has changed in Major League Baseball over that stretch. 2021, the Atlanta Braves were winning the World Series, and they thought they were going to go on a 10 to 15 year run. The Cubs in 2016, they win the World Series, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, how many World Series will they win?" I remember Jeff Passan going on 670 The Score in Chicago and saying if they win 2 or fewer, it's a huge disappointment. They won the 1. And then it was basically over immediately thereafter. The Baltimore Orioles, remember how this was supposed to be a window for them? Gone. The Rangers, they went in a couple of years ago. They've been mostly pretty bad ever since. I don't think you can plan for 4 to 6 year increments in Major League Baseball any longer. I think everything is 2 to 3 years. So that's the way that I would be operating if I'm them, is let's get good in a 2 to 3 year cycle. With Tanner Hendrickson and Bradford Bruns, I'm Brandon Kiley. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. If you guys want to get involved in the show, the places to do so. 1, Their Comfort Service text line. That's 314-399-9646. You can get involved there. We'll have Ask Us Anything coming up at 11:45. You can also get involved on YouTube at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. And we have the mic drop feature. The 101 ESPN app is where that is located. It's a Scott Lee Heating mic drop feature. We've already had some mic drops coming in from you guys. How do you feel about the Cardinals right now? Do you believe that they are about to go into a bit of a rebuild? We'll talk about that as we go along today. But coming up next, T-Bone, the national perspective on the Cardinals' return, it seems to be higher than some of the local view on what they were able to get at this year's deadline. We'll share that with you next year on 101 ESPN.
Start your day with the morning after on 101 ESPN. Get in the know first on everything St. Louis sports with Tim McKernan, Doug Vaughn, and Martin Kilcoy. Listen to TMA weekday mornings from 7 to 11 a.m. on 101 ESPN. The morning after is presented by Brown and Crouppen Law Firm. We're right back to more of it. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
I'm about to use some lingo and prospect terms that may not be common parlance for most individuals that are listening.
Really,
right
what
now,
Cardinals Nation needs on a day like today.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to explain something from Kylie McDaniel that I think is worthwhile, but it takes a little bit of explaining on the front end. So in prospect terms, something that a lot of these guys will use is FV. And what they mean when they say FV is future value. It's kind of like a grading scale for a prospect in general. It's the 20 to 80 grading scale. 80 is like, oh my God, this is unlike anything I've ever seen. For example, Mason Wynn. He's got an 80 grade arm. Why? Because have you seen that guy? It's amazing. So when you look at prospects over on FanGraphs, they've got this explained really well. An 80 grade prospect is like, oh my God, the top 5 player in all of Major League Baseball. This guy's going to come up. He's like the best player you've ever seen. Like A-Rod is like an 80 grade prospect. You almost never see that happen, right? But when you look at future value in general, they go about it in different ways, but mostly you're talking about guys like in the 60 or below range. 60 is an all-star, 55 is an above-average regular, 50 would be an everyday player, 45 would be, they can be out there, kind of a platoon guy, and then 40 is a bench player. So, like, it's that range is typically kind of what you're talking about. 60 to 40 is what you see for most prospects. The reason that I bring that up, T-Bone earlier today, ESPN.com's Kylie McDaniel put out his list of the best prospects that were traded at this year's deadline. And there was only one that was above that 50 grade, so an above average regular or better. There was only one that was traded at this year's deadline, according to Kylie McDaniel. That was DeVries, the kid that was top 5 prospect in baseball that went from the Padres to the Athletics in the Mason Miller deal. They gave up an absolute haul this year. All right. Beyond that, there were 4 players that were traded in that 50 range. So we're talking about average to above average regulars. Eduardo Tate, he was part of the Duran deal. Also part of the Duran deal was Mick Abel, the pitcher from the Philadelphia Phillies. Cal Steven, part of the Bieber deal, who technically has an extra year of control if you want to look at the option and consider that as part of it. And then Jesus Baez, who was the prized prospect that came back for the Cardinals in their Ryan Helsley deal. He was the 4th player, according to Kylie McDaniel, that's in this 50 future value range. So that means, according to at least one evaluator, Kylie McDaniel, the Cardinals got one of the 5 best prospects, conservatively speaking, that was traded at this year's deadline. Now, beyond that, he has Blaze Jordan as a guy that could at least be a future regular, 40 future value, one of the top 25 prospects traded, according to Kylie McDaniel. Dom was the 38th best prospect dealt, according to Kylie McDaniel. Hales was 54th. Molina was 71st. There were 97 total prospects that were dealt at this year's deadline. In other words, they had 4 of the top 40 prospects that were dealt into their system, and they traded 3 expiring deals out of their bullpen, 2 of which are like bridge relievers. I know there has been some pushback on what the Cardinals were able to get in return, and there are some that do not like the return whatsoever. The Athletic has been on the... I would say they are the ones that are most against what I have seen for the return. There are others that really like it, and Kylie McDaniel would seem to be one of those. T-Bone, when you see it put into this phrasing, Cardinals, 4 of the top 40 prospects that were dealt yesterday or before the deadline came into your system for your 3 rental relievers. What's your reaction to that and the return that they were able to get overall?
It tells me that they had a pretty good deadline, I would say. I mean, if you're going to be able to acquire that kind of 3 from the top 40 of the prospects that are dealt, and one, by the way, most of these guys fall in basically the same category of like, hey, they're lottery ticket prospects.
No doubt.
And so
that's most of what gets dealt at the deadline.
Yeah. So like that's why there's 97 prospects that are dealt. But when you get 3 in the top 40 for what was moved at the deadline, that's pretty good of a return for John Mozeliak for, like you said, 3 rentals, because that's typically the guys that teams don't want to give up a ton for because they only get them for the 1 October run. And as we saw, we mentioned this yesterday, I believe on the show and on the Redbird Report that we did last night, that hey, look, what was the most valuable thing at the deadline? It was control, right? These teams are paying huge amounts for controllable relievers, controllable starters if they can get them. Even Brian Hayes had value because he had control on a very team-friendly contract. I think it's pretty good for Mo. And again, like I still think their deadline deserves it. I'd say a C. I think I've determined I'm going C, C minus for their deadline because it's very Cardinals-esque of just
C
trading the minimum.
Probably where I would land.
Yeah, and it's because they just traded the minimum, and I agree. Like I like their pieces. They did good for what they had. The reason their grade is down is because they didn't move anything with control and really bring up their value and bring in the numbers into their system. But yeah, when I see a list like that, it makes me feel a lot better about what they were able to get in return.
From the 618, guys, nobody got dealt at the deadline that was valuable this year, so that's not a very big statement. It couldn't be further from the truth. This was the most active trade deadline day in the last 25 years, according to Suspettus Family Barbecue over on Twitter. He goes to Baseball Reference and sees how many trades were made on deadline day. And this year, there were more than in any other season in the last 25 years. And if you just look at it as the week before the trade deadline, you include the entire week before, there were 63 total deals done. That is more than in any other season in the last 25 years. So, yeah, I mean, there was a ton of activity. And if you're looking at the quality of the players that were dealt, I actually thought this was an amazing trade deadline compared to previous seasons.
Agreed.
Duran was dealt. Never saw that one coming. You saw the Duvall. He was traded from the San Francisco Giants. Mason Miller was traded. That was a huge one that we weren't anticipating. Bednar was moved. There were some, especially on the reliever market, some really good pitchers that were dealt. There were very few starting pitchers that were dealt. That's part of this, definitely. But I would say the relief market was as active as I can ever remember. And it was not just quantity. It was quality relievers that were getting moved, and quality relievers with control. That is incredibly rare at this time of the year.
Yeah, and that was the biggest surprise because typically it's rumored that, like, I remember Mason Miller, I feel like Miller was in the rumor mill. Bednar's been in the rumor mill for like the last 2 years. And this was the first year that it actually happened. And I think the biggest thing was what really set this off was the Twins fire sale, because the Twins were the first one to make the move. I think everybody else probably was a little hesitant to make these decisions and hold on to these pieces till the Twins made the move. Everybody saw their return and went, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, we have somebody with control. But yeah, that's the most valuable part at the deadline, is seeing these moves. And a lot of pretty good prospects were moved, as you mentioned. I mean, that kid that the Padres gave up feels like he's going to be a stud. And we mentioned 0 top 100 prospects were traded at last year's deadline, and this was a top 5 prospect in all of baseball. The last guys that were traded of that hierarchy were Eloy Jimenez, and I can't remember who the other one was. Alex had said it, but Eloy Jimenez was the last one that was on the move that was that highly rated. So the Cardinals still did pretty well when you look at what their return was. And again, they got Baez with some upside in their return package. I again think I disagree. There were really good pieces that were moved, and Mo did a pretty good job for what he got for the rentals.
He's Tanner Hendrickson. That's Bradford Bruns. I'm Brandon Kiley. You've got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. We did call for your mic drops today. Scott Lee Heating mic drop features on the 101 ESPN app. We mentioned in the open, it feels like the Cardinals are now transitioning into a rebuild. They're not necessarily in this like retool, reset, whatever they wanted to call it coming into this season. Now this is a multi-year rebuilding process. How do you feel about that? And how do you think the Cardinals will operate through it? We'll hear from Janet via the mic drop feature.
Cardinals better pray for another Mark McGwire to bring baseball back to St. Louis. That's what it took in the 90s after the fans had started not coming. Let's see if they can find another Mark McGwire. Good luck.
It is something that I'm really curious about, T-Bone. What's going to be the thing that brings Cardinals fans back? Like, it's the winning, obviously. That's the number one aspect of this. But we've seen in the past, there have been some seasons where even in, 2019 NLCS, you're going up against the Nationals and people just didn't show up to the park. There were empty seats, and that's not normal. That's not a regular occurrence at Busch Stadium. They just didn't believe in the team. They didn't have the star power, whatever. I am going to be very curious to see what is the thing that captures the imagination, that captures the heart of St. Louis Cardinals baseball fans again. The Padres fans came to the park before the team was great because they believed in what the team was trying to build, right? They go out, they get Eric Hosmer, they get Manny Machado, they acquire and then develop Fernando Tatis Jr. The ballpark was fun as hell to go to. They have created this like entertainment district around it beyond just what the ballpark village is. Like, it's this whole area that is now a destination to go to in San Diego. People bought into what the Padres were building, and then they got really good. What would it take for the Cardinals to get there? I don't know, but that is definitely going to be a big storyline in the coming seasons.
Yeah, I think it's the combination of winning and then having the McGwire, the star for the organization. Because like this year, even when they went through that moment where like we don't like to bring it up, where we thought they were a playoff team earlier in the year when they had that great May. I thought then
that was good times, man.
I know.
Good times.
I know. I thought then, like, hey, you might start to see a trickle of fans start to go back to the ballpark, right? They're winning baseball games. It feels like they might be a playoff team. It was going to be a tough battle. But we thought, okay, maybe fans start to trickle back out towards the ballpark. And that did not happen. It did not occur for a team that was starting to play winning baseball. So I don't think just winning is what's the formula here in St. Louis. It's winning, and it's a star. You think of the teams that won after the Albert Pujols era, they still had some star power on them. Matt Holliday had been kind of a star out of Colorado. He was starting to age out a little bit. Wainwright was here. Molina was here. He had kind of moved into star status, I would say. Matt Carpenter, I don't know if he was ever viewed as a star across baseball, but he was a really freaking good player here in St. Louis.
You still had Yadi and Waino on the team. So if he's the third fiddle, cool. If he was the only one here, I think you've got a bigger problem. I don't think it can be just one star. I think St. Louis has shown one is not good enough. When it was just Goalie, that wasn't good enough for Cardinals fans. It's got to be Goalie and Arenado and somebody else. And ideally, it's somebody that's homegrown because Cardinals fans love their own players. And yeah, it's going to take some time. All right, let's hear from Randy on the mic drop feature.
The frustrating part about all of it is that you continuously deplete your talent by trading your prospects for Band-Aids at the deadline. I know that a lot of these guys aren't superstars like Tommy Edman, but you continually trade them for guys like Eric Fetty, and then you don't re-sign the guys. It doesn't make any sense. I realize a lot of these prospects that we just got for Ryan Helsley may not turn into anything, but you could be doing the same thing. You could be packaging 3, 4, 5 of these guys and throwing them at a pending free agent with the hopes of re-signing. At least then you have a chance of having real talent here. That's what we used to do. We used to analyze these guys in the minors and trade them before they got exposed. We used to trade for people and then re-sign them because they liked the crowd, they liked the audience. You just completely ruined that environment and that strategy over the last 5, 6, 7 years. So now they're left with what they are. I don't know that they ever recover, honestly, because if you're not willing to pay high-level dollars, you're going to turn into the Pirates and the Marlins anyway.
Man, Randy needs a hug. He's really going through it today, I can tell.
I'm trying to understand the beginning part of that.
Yeah, I don't get because I was thinking back to their trades.
They don't really trade prospects at the deadline. That's not what Mo does.
Yeah, like I was thinking back to let's go back to 2021, right? Let's date back to when they were first Myers post-COVID.
Oviedo?
Well, that was 22. 21 was Lane Thomas was for Lester. I can't even tell you what the return was.
John Gant.
John Gant for J-Happ. Gant's not in baseball. Lane Thomas didn't have a role, and I don't know what his role is.
And now he's a righty platoon.
He's a good player. He's fine. He's a good player that can help a team. You go to 22, you mentioned it. Oviedo, sure, they could use an arm, but he's not even pitching right now. He's still recovering from Tommy John surgery. Malcolm Nunez, I think, was the third baseman they gave up.
And they traded Harrison Bader for Jordan Montgomery.
Exactly. And then you go to 24 when they buy again, and it's Tommy Evans. It hasn't been I can't even think of the last prospect that they gave up because Oviedo wasn't really a prospect at that point.
It would have been 7 or 8 years ago. I mean, they haven't done that. What he's saying is what they haven't done. It's something that I've been critical of the Cardinals of, is they're not aggressive enough with their prospects. They end up in a situation where they need to trade some of these guys in their system. But I guess Randy Arozarena would have been the last time. They traded Randy. That was an off-season move. It was not a deadline move, but they traded Randy A. They get Liberatore in return. They regret it almost immediately, and Randy A goes on to become, the World Series MVP, basically. He goes on that crazy run in October. Liberatore's become a good player, but I think that is kind of instructive on what they're trying to accomplish here. Libby was a much higher regarded prospect than what they got in return at this year's deadline, but you're flipping players to hopefully get something that can help you in the next 3 to 5 years. But think about that. They traded Randy A. in the 2019-2020 offseason. The Cardinals have not really paid off on that trade until 2024, I would say. Libby last year really came into his own. That's 4 years after the deal was done for a prospect that was pretty close. I mean, we're talking about it being, 2028, 2029 before you really see, if these guys are still in the Cardinal system, before you really see the payoff from this year's deadline deal. So I don't think the beginning of that was fair. I do agree with the second half, though, of the mic drop, which is the Cardinals have gotten away from their ways, which is supposed to be trading prospects for players and then signing that player long term. I think there is a disconnect from the way that we all see the Cardinals and the way that they see themselves. The Cardinals seem to see themselves as this self-sufficient
draft and develop
organization. We develop our own stars. I think on the outside looking in, we view it and you say, okay, well, sure, you did that with Yadi. You did that with Albert. That's kind of the end of the list.
And that was the early 2000s.
And you got, let's be honest, lucky with Albert. sometimes that happens, but you got lucky with him. Molina was a good find, good pedigree, but he was like a 4th-round pick.
Yeah.
That's kind of good fortune as well. So have you really ever been that draft and develop team? I don't think so. I think your identity as an organization is you identify players on other teams that are in tough contractual situations, and then you give them the money that they are deserving of. So I think you've just, like, that lane has been taken over by the Dodgers and the Mets and the Phillies and the Yankees and these other teams that are bigger markets. And I think the Cardinals are trying to figure out, what does that mean for us? But I think they see themselves in a different way than I view them.
Yeah, I see the Cardinals kind of like I saw that mic drop. I kind of agree with half of it, and then I disagree with the second half, to where I agree on the half of you've been draft and develop, but you've been draft and develop of the complementary pieces that you then flip to go get the superstar. Not to draft and develop a superstar, because you're right, they haven't done that since the early 2000s, and I agree. It is fair to say they got lucky by getting Pujols in, like, the 10th round. They've always been a very good team at developing good starting, originally, good starting pitching, and then also, like, pieces like Brendan Donovan, Tommy Edman, Lane Thomas, what he's become of, hey, these are really good complementary pieces. These are not stars. Use these pieces to go out and get the star, and they've gotten away from that.
He's T-Bone. That is Bradford on BK. Coming up next, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for NFL quick hitters, including 2 players that might be requesting a trade from their respective teams, both of which are in the NFC East. We'll tell you who they are next here on 101 ESPN.
Blues hockey is on 101 ESPN.
Get the inside scoop on and off the ice with the Last Minute Blues podcast with Alex Ferrario, Jeremy Rutherford, and Donnie Fandango.
Blues opinion, talk, and speculation. It's what we do.
Watch or listen to the Last Minute Blues podcast on our YouTube channel or at 101ESPN.com.
Hey, it's BK. It is time to unlock your inner champion. There's one place to do so. It is Victory Men's Health. Unlock that inner champion today with them, whether that means weight loss goals that you're trying to meet. You have testosterone, and those symptoms are starting to hit for you. You're into your 30s, maybe your 40s, maybe your 50s, and you're thinking to yourself, man, I remember when I was in my 20s and I had all of this energy. I could run around with the kiddos all day, get that workout in. You'd see the results almost immediately. You're not feeling that anymore. Could be due to low testosterone. They can check those levels for you over at Victory Men's Health. They can also help you out with erectile dysfunction if that is what unlocks your inner champion as well. You can do it all by going to visit them at victorymenshealth.com. They have 4 great locations across the St. Louis area: O'Fallon, Missouri; O'Fallon, Illinois; Sunset Hills; and my personal location in Town and Country. Check them out today. 4 great locations in the St. Louis area. They'll help you unlock your inner champion. It's all at Victory Men's Health and online at victorymenshealth.com. That's victorymenshealth.com.
It's an MLB weekend on ESPN. Saturday, Game 1, Phillies and Tigers. First pitch at 3:05. Then Sunday, it's Game 2. First pitch at 6:10. The MLB plays on 101 ESPN. 101 ESPN Sports Center.
Maton moved to Lone Star State. Good morning, it's Bradford Bruns with the Sports Center update powered by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Just before 5 p.m. yesterday, Texas acquired high-leverage reliever Phil Maton from St. Louis. STL receiving minor league pitcher Skylar Hales and Mason Molina in return. The Cardinals, of course, made two other deals pre-deadline, trading longtime closer Ryan Helsley as well as Steven Matz. Play resuming tonight, Petco Park style. Redbirds Padres getting underway at 8:40. MU football fall practice number 4 currently unfolding. D coordinator Corey Batoon has been extended through 2027. OC Kirby Moore, meanwhile, relishes facing Batoon's crew daily.
Going against the D-line that we are, you're going to figure out what our guys do really well from a pass game standpoint, protection, run game, is it gap scheme, outside zone, inside zone. Those are the things we're going to continue to evaluate.
This Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
This is exactly where you want to be listening to us. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
All right, let's dive into some NFL quick hitters. We've got some news to pass along this morning. This comes from Diana Rossini of The Athletic. The Micah Parsons Cowboys relationship has deteriorated to the point where the star pass rusher is, quote, considering drastic measures, which could include a trade request or even, I don't know, I'm going to need you to explain to me what this means, Seabone. Okay. A declaration that he is severing his relationship with the team, per multiple league sources familiar with the situation. All of that, again, coming from Diana Rossini of The Athletic. What does it mean to declare that you are severing your relationship with a team?
I don't know. This isn't like a relationship.
Declare separation. Like,
I
what?
think you go on the 6 Feet Under podcast and you make up the biggest and best soliloquy you can. That's the microwave.
I truly do not know what that accomplishes.
Nothing.
Like,
yes,
would that
correct.
mean that he's now a New York Giant? He suddenly is playing for the San Francisco 49ers?
He's going to start showing up to their team meetings in Eagles gear.
He's under contract, right? Am I missing something?
No, yeah, he's under contract.
Okay, so he's making $25 million this year, roughly.
Man, what a tough life.
They've got the franchise tag for next season if they would like to use so. And hey, Mike, I've got some news. They're going to use that on you, big boy. And then they have another franchise tag for the next season that they are almost certainly going to use on you, Micah Parsons. I go back to what we said with Trey Hendrickson, who also, by the way, has reported to camp and said that his holdout was quote unquote selfish.
Yeah, agree.
There is no leverage for these guys anymore. The NFLPA screwed up in their last negotiation and allowed for there to be these huge fines for every day that you miss in training camp, $50,000 every single day that you miss. Micah, dude, I'm sorry. I wish you could get all of the money in the world. I think you're deserving of it. You are an unbelievable football player and deserve to be paid accordingly. But these things work out in a certain kind of way, and you're going to you either take a little bit less right now or you play it out, go year to year on the tag, which sucks, but it's the reality of where you are with your negotiations. And then you get paid the way that Kirk Cousins did by continuing to bet on yourself, hitting the free agent market and getting out there for every team to bid on. But I mean, demanding a trade, okay, you can say that you want to trade. The Cowboys are going to say, go chase yourself. You're a Cowboy. You're one of the best players in the NFL, and we'll see you in week 1. Or we'll see you in week 9. You can sit out the first 8 weeks of the season.
Sure.
You show up in week 9, and we go about this again next year, and then again in the following season. These things to me are kind of silly. I don't understand what players think they're accomplishing with it.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I went on my rant when Trey Hendrickson did his whole thing. And like you said, he's back in camp already. Man, it sucks. You know what? You have no leverage. The teams have all the leverage. I don't get what the players are shooting for, and this isn't the NBA where the teams technically have the leverage and they just move on. Man, in the NFL, they really hold on to this leverage. And why wouldn't you? Micah Parsons is, I would still say, the best pass rusher in the NFL. Why would I just trade away that guy? And if I'm the Cowboys and you're Jerry Jones, and he clearly seems to think they're going to be able to compete this year, why would I move on from the best defensive end in football? And I get you for basically 3 more years. It makes no sense. I don't understand why players believe they've got this leverage. I would love to talk to an NFL agent and ask them, why do you tell your client to hold out of training camp? What is the thought process behind that? Because it's not like Mike is just doing this on his own. He's being told by somebody that's representing him, hey, I think we should hold out here. And I don't get what the agent would be telling them that would sell them on this idea.
No, and in particular, the Dallas Cowboys organization does not care about the way in which these other teams are moving since 2019 to boot. Here's just a very short list of the names that have extended well into the summer before somebody finally blinked and okay business was executed. Ezekiel Elliott, Zach Martin, remember him? Oh yeah, CeeDee Lamb. This is not going to change anything. You can declare anything and everything you want. It's going to drag on aimlessly, and finally, sooner rather than later, we'll get an answer. This is nothing.
So the other player that has apparently requested a trade in the NFC East is Terry McLaurin. Now, I feel for Micah Parsons, this sucks, but this is the way that all of these contracts go for the most part. And he's going to get his money. The franchise tag, somebody asked in our YouTube chat, how much is that? Like $20 million? No, like 35. And then the following year, like 40 plus, which, by the way, is cheaper for the Cowboys than signing him to a long-term contract, because he's going to get more than TJ Watt did, which is $41 million a year. So the franchise tag is actually the more quote-unquote affordable way for the Cowboys to operate here. So you can see how it's difficult to get a long-term deal done. Terry McLaurin is asking for a long-term contract with the Washington Commanders, and I feel for him because he is severely underpaid. And let me list the quarterbacks that he's played with in his NFL career.
Oh, this is not going to be good.
Taylor Heineke, Sam Howell, Dwayne Haskins, Case Keenum, Alex Smith, Carson Wentz, Kyle Allen, Jacoby Brissett, Colt McCoy, Garrett Gilbert, Logan Thomas, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and then finally last year, he got himself a quarterback. He's been amazing. He has been great from day one, has been a consummate professional the entire time that he's been with the Washington Commanders, despite horrible ownership, awful quarterback play, horrific overall team dynamics from day one. He's been great. He's risen above all of that. He's worth the money that he's asking for right now. However, he's getting up there in age, and the Commanders have basically said, no, we're going to go ahead and wait this one out. He wants $30+ million a year. They don't want to pay that. He wants 4+ years. They seem to want to pay like 3 or fewer years. So this is a tough dynamic for both sides. He has now requested a trade. T-Bone, is he going to get one?
No. Again, it goes back to leverage. He has no leverage in this situation. And if I'm the Washington Commanders, they're one of the up-and-coming teams across football. They were the surprise last season. Everybody expects Jane Daniels to take that next step again this year. So why would I trade away his favorite target in our wide receiver room? It makes no sense from the Commanders' standpoint then. And it makes sense, especially, you mentioned his age. He's 30 years old going into this year. I wouldn't want to commit to a wide receiver at 4+ years at that point, at his age, because we've seen it. Wide receivers, it can just disappear like that because of injuries that may occur. Look at Cooper Kupp. I thought Cooper Kupp was going to be a stud in the NFL for a while. 2 years after he had I think it was a year after he won the Triple Crown, he dealt with injuries, and then the year after, he was clearly not himself, and the Rams moved on. So, yeah, I think he's going to be a Commander, and I don't think they're going to pay him.
I do think he might get traded next year, but they have no reason to trade him right now. What, I'm going to trade you for a future draft pick? Why? I'm trying to win. Next year, it becomes a little bit different. The calculus changes for them, and they say, all right, we can either franchise tag you or we can trade you and get a draft pick, and maybe that first-round pick becomes a wide receiver for us, right? Then, okay, we could talk about it, and we could see which teams he makes sense for. But right now, I'd be shocked if they trade him going into the season. McLaurin's going to be, I would imagine, a Washington Commander, and there's either one of two scenarios where this works out. A, he blinks and he gives up some of what he's asking for right now in his contract and they get a long-term deal done. Or B, he plays on his contract this season and we get back to this conversation in March. I think those are the only two realistic outcomes of what they're dealing with right
This
now.
one feels as if it has to get smoothed over. It absolutely has to, because BK, you listed the individuals who have tried to play quarterback for that franchise in the past years, and yet in each and every season being the number one individual for whom you have to plan if you're an opposing defense 1,000 yards each and every time. And you can't really blame him at this point in time either when you think about also some of the other older receivers even this offseason who were able to net long-term extensions. Washington isn't willing to budge at this time, but when you're seeing the likes of T. Higgins, DK Metcalf, all these guys getting ridiculously high sums guaranteed, eventually enough was enough with Terry McLaurin.
That's the update in the NFL. Two contract situations that my guess is both of them end up playing for their respective teams this year, and nothing changes other than the conversation that is taking place right now. He's T-Bone, that's Bradford, I'm BK. Coming up next, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Ask Us Anything here on 101 ESPN.
You can now watch 101 ESPN live on our Air Alliance Team Studio Cams. Catch every show live on our YouTube channel or at 101ESPN.com. 101 ESPN Studio Cams.
Presented by the Air Alliance Team Heating and Cooling. Getting the job done quickly, correctly, 100% of the time.
The 101 Reward Center is always loaded up with awesome giveaways. And right now we have your chance to win a tailor-made golf bag. Enter to score that sleek tailor-made golf bag right now at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app powered by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. They are St. Louis. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. You've got questions. We may have the answers. Maybe. It's BK and Ferrario's questions and answers on 101 ESPN.
Alongside T-Bone and Bradford, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Time for Ask Us Anything. If you guys have any questions, sports or otherwise, go ahead and get them in right now on the Air Comfort Service text line from the 314. BK, how are your chafed nipples liking this cooler weather? A lot. Yesterday was a really nice run.
Yeah.
Really nice run. Dude, this weather's wonderful. Tonight we're going to an outdoor concert, so I'm really looking forward to being out there in what is going to be much cooler weather. One of my wife's favorite bands is Rainbow Kitten Surprise. We're going to go see them live. this evening, and I can't wait. Whether you're going to the Muni, you're going to a park, you're going to the zoo for Romeo and Juliet, the concert in town tonight. It's a wonderful evening to get out there because we can't anticipate 80 degrees and beautiful like this in early August very often.
Yeah, it felt great to go out, sit on my patio last night, get some work done, drink an ice cold beer, and then maybe my favorite part, in the morning when you get up and you open up the window, you get that nice morning fresh air with your cup of coffee while you're reading the paper. Oh,
You can't beat it.
no,
You really can't beat it.
Especially when it's August.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, it's getting me set for SEC Saturdays. You know it. You know it.
The absolute best is waking up in like early October, crisp air, right? Go on an early morning run.
No, I don't do that, but
Get that coffee going, hang out outside. Little man's playing out there. He's got some baseball going on the tee or whatever. Oh, the best, the absolute best. All right, from the never-ending wipe. Guys, I've got this as the question for everybody. This is clearly on everybody's mind. BK, T-Bone, and Bradford, are you boxer or briefs guys? Feel free to guess what Alex would wear as well. I'm a brief guy. I can't understand the boxers thing. Doesn't make sense to me. I'm actually not sure that anybody over the age of 18 wears boxers. So
yeah, I'm a brief guy. I don't know if I know anybody over the age of 18.
Bradford?
You know what? I'll reveal it. That's fine. I'm the anomaly. I've been the outlier for heaven knows how
You're
long.
a boxers guy.
Why not? I switched teams, let me clarify, in that department about 5 years ago. You're welcome.
Out of curiosity, why? Just a thing that you always did, never switched over, and just made the declaration, I am a boxers guy?
I made that declaration a la Micah Parsons. Needed a little more livelihood there. Yes.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line.
Move it along.
anything.
Move it along.
From Philip Seymour Doffman, my girlfriend is going to that concert as well. Say what's up to her tonight. Will do. I'm not sure who your girlfriend is, but I will absolutely make sure that I say hello to every woman that I see.
Probably doesn't know who BK is.
Yeah, to make sure that I get her as well. All right, from the 618, T-Bone, are you 50 years old?
Oh, yeah. At heart, I am. I'm not 50
50
yet.
feels young. I think he's more of like a
60, 70.
73.
Yeah.
Just starting to collect your retirement.
There's just things, my generation just
Yelling
doesn't
about
get.
it not coming on the right day.
Yeah, there's things my generation doesn't get, like the paper.
My generation doesn't get.
There's nothing wrong with reading the paper when you get up in the morning, right?
That's
you get
right.
caught up on your news, sports or otherwise.
Hard copy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, like there's nothing wrong with that. There's also nothing wrong with like wanting to watch a documentary last night, like I did. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, get informed. That's what I would say.
What's your favorite style of documentary? Like, you got the true crime style, you've got the historical stuff.
I'm a history guy / like current times.
Okay.
I'm not big on the true crime ones. I watch a couple of them. They're not my favorite. I like more of the history. Like I recently watched one on the Cold War.
Bradford, I'm assuming you watch a lot of true crime at home.
Goodness gracious. It never stops.
I assume that was the case.
Stops.
There's always a new one. Every week now, there's something new on Netflix. It's like, hey, new true crime doc. Here we go. Oh, this one is on a cruise ship? Great. Let's learn about the disappearance of a woman that we haven't heard about in 30 years. This will be great.
Peacock 2 is on its game in that department. Ooh.
Hulu, underrated with their true crime documentaries. They've got a ton of them. A lot of them are like the old ABC stuff that's now making its way to the streaming services. It's wonderful. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for Ask Us Anything. From the 314, T-Bone, do you actually get the paper delivered to your home?
No, I don't.
Do you go to like a gas station?
If I wanted a hard company, I'd have to get it. Yeah, you got to go. There's a QT just down the road from me. They got the hard copy if you're looking for it.
All right. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. From the 314, T-Bone, are you planning to be a part of the Love is Blind casting in St. Louis? You see this? Love is Blind is coming to St. Louis. They're doing a casting call. We've got to get T-Bone to be in this.
The only reason that I know it is a thing is because the two guys that I work with had to bring it up to me. And not only them, but Marsh texted me as well of getting involved. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want my love to be out there on television, right? Like, I'm not a Love is Blind guy. That's probably not me.
I think we need to do this as part of the show. I need you to
just because the Cardinals are in a rebuild, we're not that desperate.
I need you to go through the process. So that way we can use it as content for the show. The Cardinals are not very good right now, T-Bone. I don't know if you've heard about this. And we are getting into like a relative dead zone in Cardinals content for us. So if nothing else, for the Redbird Report, I need this, man. we can use this for the Redbird Report, where we've got 45 minutes of Cardinals conversation, which will turn into 5 to 10 minutes of T-Bone dating conversation.
Update on my dating life.
You could still use a lot of baseball analogies, trying to reach base, trying to send one out
There
to the
you go.
gap, going for a two-bagger,
God,
Second base.
I can't imagine, and I say this with, I promise you, the nth degree of love.
It can't be with that much love if there has to be a caveat put in front of it.
I can't imagine a worse person to be on Love is Blind than T-Bone.
Let's see, I just don't fit,
I just, not exactly their target demo would be my way to describe. Have you watched Love is Blind?
What is that network? You have to educate me. I don't go down
really?
that road. I don't go down
You're not
that road.
familiar?
Not as much.
So the simplest way to describe it is a group of men and a group of women, mostly young, mostly attractive, go into, they're in a specific city. Last one was in Minnesota. And over the course of a couple of weeks, they go through this process where they don't get to see each other, but they're doing dates, quote unquote, with each other for a couple of weeks. And you start to whittle down who your options are. And eventually some will declare this is my person, right? So you end up with 6 or 7 typically that have matched. And then they meet each other. They propose to one another the first time that they meet each other.
Of course.
And then they go on a quote unquote honeymoon. They're there for a week with all the temptations that exist among the other people that they were dating in these pods. And then they live with each other for a month. And while they're living with each other, they're going through their daily lives. They're reintegrated into their family life. Their friends are around. And now you learn about some of the things that person may have been hiding from you while you were in the pods. And their friends don't like you. The family is just completely opposed to all of this process. It's great. It's a horrible TV show, and I can't get enough of it. And I need T-Bone to be a part of it.
That sounds awful.
It's so bad and yet so great.
It sounded heartwarming at first. Now it's a little creepy.
I know. I didn't fully understand what I was getting into if I were going to be signing up for this. I'm out. No way.
Somebody said that's the show where the girl said she looked like Megan Fox and didn't at all, and dude fell for it. 100%. It was so great. It was so good. The show is wonderful, man. Everything about it is great.
Megan Fox 2008 or 2025?
She said she looked like the 2008 version of Megan Fox from Transformers,
the sequel.
And then they were revealed to one another, and he was like, "Who told you that you look like Megan Fox? Because that is not what you look like." It was wonderful. All right, coming up in 15 minutes, Brad Thompson, Cardinals analyst, will join us here on BK and Ferrario. This is the kind of conversation that you get when the Cardinals are going through a rebuild. Coming up next, what is the Cardinals' goal for the remainder of this season? What are we watching for in August and September? We'll talk about that next here on BK and Ferrario.
The Redbird Report, your front row seat to all things Cardinals. From the dugout to the diamond, BK and T-Bone go deep with the latest news, notes, and analysis. Watch the Redbird Report on YouTube or listen online at 101ESPN.com. WXOS, WXOS HD1 East St. Louis. 101 ESPN is driven by Auto Centers Nissan, home of the lifetime warranty and 30-day return. Giving you the picture, the real big St. Louis sports picture. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Watching for the rest of the season. The St. Louis Cardinals are exactly 500. They're 55-55. They just traded their three best relievers, arguably. If nothing else, three of their top four relievers, if you want to include JoJo Romero into that mix. So now you're looking at the rest of the season. Here's what comes up next, T-Bone. 3 games at San Diego, 3 games at the Dodgers, 3 games at home versus the Chicago Cubs. 3 against the Rockies. Okay, cool. 3 against the New York Yankees. 3 at the Miami Marlins, who just beat you in 2 out of 3 games. Oh boy, this could go south relatively quickly. T-Bone, when you're thinking about the rest of the season, the goal for the next 2 months, over the next 50-plus games, what is it specifically that you're going to be watching for or that you're going to be evaluating the rest of the year?
I think one thing that I'm going to keep an eye on for them, I'm not going to look at their pitching because to me there's not much to be learned on their pitching. I know some people will look at their bullpen. Bullpen arms, it's a volatile industry. I don't know how much you can really take away if, like Swanson has a really good 2 months. It'll be encouraging, but as we saw with Ryan Fernandez, things can go south for a bullpen arm in 1 year. I'm going to look at their offense, and I'm going to start it with the offense as a whole. We talked about it after they got shut out the first time by the Miami Marlins, that their offense has just been abysmal since, I think it's the White Sox series. Yep. They went from being like top 10 in a lot of categories, batting average, on base, slug wasn't there. They haven't slugged all year. But the offense was the thing that was carrying them. It kept them afloat. It's what really drove their success in May. Even though the pitching did have a good month, their offense was really good. And you felt like, hey, they're never out of a game. That was a lot of our talking points in the first half of the season. Lately, though, man, the offense has just been brutal. They've been terrible offensively.
10 shutouts in their last 41 games.
Yeah, and that's unacceptable. And look, they've had some injuries and guys have been hurt, but even then, it shouldn't be that bad. So I think that's the thing is, okay, who is this offense? What is this offense more of what we saw in the first half, and it's just been a weird couple of weeks? Or am I going to have to look at what the second half is and go, man, they keep getting shut out. Sure, they've ran into some good pitching, but, man, I thought this was where they had success with their development. They've developed really good complementary pieces. Are they going to be able to produce in the second half? So I would put the offense in the spotlight for the final 2 months of this season.
I want to see what their actions are, not their words, on who they prioritize. Because they didn't help their manager at all in terms of like, hey, here's who we're going with. Please play these individuals. Instead, they decided, okay, you know what? What we're going to do is we're going to have all of these guys here. Everybody's going to play. What's that mean for Arenado? Is he going to take a little bit of a step back here? Are we going to see him get 1 to 2 days off a week? His history would say no, but that's probably the only way, if everybody is healthy, that you can really make this work. Does that mean that Nolan Gorman is once again heading back to the bench despite him being good the last time that we saw him prior to that injury that landed him on the shelf? What's this mean for Lars Nootbaar, who might be a legit trade candidate for them in the offseason, but does he have the same value if other teams see, all right, you're prioritizing Ivan Herrera over him, you're prioritizing Alec Burleson over him. Where are you at with Lars Nootbaar, and are you now pigeonholing him into a trade scenario, like where everybody knows you're going to sell him? I'm very curious to see with their playing time and with their actions who they decide to prioritize on the offensive side of things. So, T-Bone, I'm with you. I'm also watching the position players, but to me, it's less about the results, although those are important, don't get me wrong. It's less about the results and more about how is the organization viewing some of the pieces that they have internally. That could be our first tell on who is most likely to be dealt this offseason.
Yeah, and I think that's probably spot on. And what makes it interesting is, like, if you ask me, like, who are the 3 players that you would have an eye on, I think really only one is at the major leagues, and that is Jordan Walker. Like, I feel like you almost have to lock him in, at least for the next month, as one of those guys that should be in that spot because of the changes that we have seen. But I feel like most of the guys they have answers on, and that's why, like, it will be interesting to see who they choose. Because when you think about it, this is what we were talking about yesterday. Like, why not move a Newt Barr? Why not move a Brendan Donovan or Alec Burleson? Why not listen on these left-handed bats? I feel like you know what all those guys are. The only one that I would say on this roster that you don't know about is Jordan Walker.
And that's what I wanted to get to next. He's really like, if we're going to pinpoint one player that I'm watching the rest of the year, it's him. We've gone back to Jordan Walker being the priority once again. He should play basically every day. Now, if he gets an off day here or there, that's fine. It's all good. But Jordan Walker is the number one player that I am once again intrigued by. And I'm going to fall for it again. I can already feel it coming. But his at-bats have been much better lately. He's taking walks again, which is huge. He's not striking out to the same degree. And when he does, I'm mostly okay with it because a lot of the time it's him letting a pitch go that he can't do any damage against, and the pitcher makes a good pitch. It's like, all right, tip your cap. Let's go back to the dugout. That's good process. You shouldn't be swinging at that outside of the zone fastball or that low and away slider that just barely clips the zone. He can't hit those. It's not going to be where Jordan Walker has success. So I want to see this continue to translate into production. The process has been really good. The production has been starting to tick up as well. Can he continue that? What does that look like for the final 50 games of the regular season? Because for the last month, he's been an above average regular. Can he continue to do that for 2 more months? Because then you'd be putting together a 3-month stretch where Jordan Walker looks the part again. And that would be highly encouraging heading into 2026.
Yeah, and that would be when I finally say, okay, those changes that they've talked about, it feels like they have finally clicked for him because anything can happen. Like I looked in the month of July, 807 OPS to your point on him being very good.
I'd sign up for that in a second.
That's a 13-game sample size. I've seen guys go through a hot stretch like this for 13 games, but a 2-month stretch of doing that would be signs that this has actually come together and, again, start to at least provide some hope of, okay, maybe he can be the guy that is what they thought he was going to become. Maybe he can become eventually that star that they were hoping he was going to become. But even at a minimum, even if you just finally get some results that say, you know what, this guy's going to be a big leaguer, that would be a huge success from where we were a couple months ago when we were looking at Jordan Walker and going, man, I just don't see him as a guy that's going to make it to the big leagues.
You cited sample size, and that's why I'm worried yet again, because the numbers on the surface for the entirety of the month of July, they look really solid. You look at the average, it's in excess of 300. You look at the number of doubles. You look at a tendency, an enhanced tendency to be able to drive the baseball. But guys, if we actually strip away a lot of the numbers outside of the first 5 or so games, 3 consecutive 2-hit performances, BK, unfortunately, and I have proceeded to bang this Jordan Walker drum ad nauseum over the past few months. But in attending that game on Monday, for instance, at Busch Stadium, Cabrera against the Marlins, you're still seeing somebody who is consistently chasing the ball, chasing that slider outside of the zone. And for as much as we want to put into the elevated batting average, the ability to come very close to hitting a number of home runs, I'm also looking at a guy who only went in the month of July 3 games without striking out in a contest. So are we seeing right now
I've got some
more?
news.
Okay.
Whatever,
all right. Go ahead.
I can tell you how they're going to alleviate this issue.
They just sent Jordan Walker down?
No. Katie Wu has just reported the Cardinals are placing Nolan Arenado on the 10-day injured list.
Yeah.
Nolan Boyd.
I mean, if you didn't see this coming. He said he's got some things to work out prior to the deadline, right?
Apparently it was
It'll all work out.
Yeah, apparently it was his shoulder.
He's got a right shoulder injury, same thing that was an issue for him early in July. Missed a handful of games, hopes to rest up over the break, thought it was going to be better, and since then he's had a 159 batting average with 2 extra base hits, 1 RBI. Huh. I find that to be highly interesting. What do you think, T-Bone?
Yeah, it's a little interesting on him deciding to go to the IL now on an injury that's clearly been bugging him for a while, if you believe that. I mean, the logjam just got a lot easier to figure out, at least. There's some positives to take away from this.
That's amazing. It's just amazing. Is he opting out of the season? Is that what's happening here? I mean, it's incredibly convenient timing.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far unless I don't see him again for 2 months. But
it's definitely interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was not mentioned yesterday on Most Talk with the media. I'll say that much. So find it interesting. All right. Other reporting here from Katie Wu. Cardinals are recalling Ryan Fernandez, Roddery Munoz, and Andre Granillo from AAA Memphis. The Cardinals needed to refresh their bullpen after Helsley, Maton, and Matz were dealt at the deadline. Fernandez had actually been really good recently at AAA. It sure sounds like, based on some of the reporting coming out, he's going to get a look in those high-leverage innings. They wanted to get him right before they brought him back up. He's right now, and now he could go right back to a leverage role. Granillo, some were wondering, is he even eligible to come up because he was just optioned down to Memphis? Okay, apparently, there's a rule. If there's a roster spot that is opened via trade, he is eligible to come up to the major league roster because of that. So Cardinals are recalling Ryan Fernandez, Roddery Munoz, and Andre Granillo. It sounds like Gorman is coming back with Arenado heading to the injured list. So those are the flurry of roster moves that are taking place today. Lars Nootbaar, it sounds like it's still going to be on his rehab assignment for a little bit. He's been out for a while, so going to get that timing back while he is down in AA. So those are all of the latest reports when it comes to your Cardinals, how they are going to be looking as they take the field later on this evening in San Diego. We'll break that all down with Brad Thompson, Cardinals analyst for FanDuel Sports Midwest, when BT joins us in studio coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
Get social with 101 ESPN. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, Threads, Blue Sky, and YouTube at 101 ESPN.
We're right back to more of it. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. We're hanging with Brad Thompson on 101 ESPN.
Hanging breaking ball from Brad Thompson. And boy, does he get a swing on it. Lift and separate and see you later.
Hanging with BT is sponsored by St. Luke's, ranked top 2% in the nation for cardiac surgery by Health Grades. Visit stlukes-stl.com.
Always a pleasure when we can be joined in studio by Brad Thompson. Not on the trip this week for the Cardinals. He skipped the one to San Diego and L.A., as you do.
Like San Diego and L.A.
Yeah.
Boring.
Who would want to do that trip? Boy, does that sound bad. An off day yesterday in San Diego.
Stupid beach.
Just miserable.
I burn easily.
Yeah, 75 and sunny every day. Sounds so miserable. At least you got the same weather here this week.
It is great here. Yeah, if you're going to be home, at least it isn't like the weather from a couple of days ago.
Yeah,
and the trade deadline was pretty hot overall. Overall takes, fellas. We've been talking about it the whole time. It was nuts.
Well done by you. Great transition,
no
first
big
of
deal.
all.
Bingo,
You're a total
bingo.
pro. Brad Thompson is the Cardinals analyst, of course, for FanDuel Sports Midwest. Joins us weekly here on BK and Ferrario. BT, let's start big picture. We can go Major League Baseball-wise, then we'll kind of get to the micro.
Take your show
Cardinals.
right back. Nice work.
What'd you think? I mean, it was awesome, right? Like the most trades that we've seen at a deadline in the last 25 years.
35 deals just yesterday, right?
On deadline day.
50 overall. Crazy,
Amazing.
right? And honestly, I'm going to have to, for the rest of the season, have to look at some rosters very deeply before we get into it to see who is where. No, I thought it was great, and you still had a lot of big names that didn't move. We just we were talking about it during the Marlins series. Sandy Alcantara, thought somebody would jump on that. Edwin Cabrera, he didn't end up moving. Joe Ryan, Dylan Cease, like a lot of these guys ended up staying put, right? So
even Gallen, who's on an expiring.
Yeah. So it was a weird one, but it was one where it was very reliever driven, right? And we see this a lot of times at the trade deadline, guys. Usually those are your missing links. Like, man, if we're going to win a World Series, we need this. Like, we need to be able to shut this down. It's hard when you're looking for, hey, we need that impact bat in the middle of the order. Like, maybe that'll work. Yeah, it's always great to be able to have that. But you saw a lot of relievers move. Obviously, the Cardinals moved the 3 relievers, the expiring contracts that they had that did not have no trade clauses. I don't think that anybody was shocked by that. The only shocking thing was, as you were approaching the trade deadline, I was out at my son's baseball practice, and I'm being a horrible coach / dad on my phone. I'm like, what? Maton's still here? He's still here. Well, let's go. Like you got to move him, right? You have to be able to move these pieces. So no surprises on what the Cardinals did.
BT, were you surprised, though, by the fact that we only saw, I think it was 3 starting pitchers at the deadline get moved yesterday? I mean, we just mentioned a couple, Alcantara, Cabrera, Gallen. They didn't get moved at all. Only, I think, 3 starters got moved. Surprised by that?
Yeah, and a lot of need, right? Like all of these teams have in the playoff hunt, everybody can use a little bit more of a boost. I think it maybe tells you a little bit about the asking price of some of these starters that are out there, or teams are looking at it and say, hey, I think that we could piece this together. If we get another reliever or 2, we can handle our guy being a 5 and dive, and then we'll dominate the back end of it. But yeah, absolutely, especially because of the names that we threw out there.
It goes back to, for the Cardinals, if this is going to be the asking price for starters at the deadline, and then we see what the asking price is among starters in the free agent market, because that much more important to be able to develop your own.
You better have them. No, you better have them. And that ends up being obviously a part of the process when you look at the draft this last year. We're starting to see some of the fruits of the last couple of drafts be out there. But it is one where if you don't, it's the best currency in all of baseball. It's controlled pitching. If you have that, you're in good shape. You can flip it for anything. And the Cardinals had that for a long time, moved away from it for a while, and we all know why. They were devoid of position player talent, and now you're starting to see it shift back. I think it's a good move.
So as we now have the roster in front of us, and we could see what the Cardinals are working with the rest of the way, they have seemingly, at least front office-wise, kind of turned the page to 2026, while also still, hoping to continue to win the rest of 2025. BT, I asked this of T-Bone in the last segment. I'm curious your thoughts on it as well. What are you watching for the rest of the way?
Well, look, I still want to see, all those questions that we had coming in. Mm-hmm. I'd like answers for those. Like, I don't think that we have answers for what is Walker. A hell of a lot better, by the way, recently. But we've started to get answers on Walker in the last 2 weeks, right? I don't know what Nootbaar is yet. Like, that is when I know his name was thrown around via trade. Like I'm not sure what he is. Can't wait to get him healthy and find out in the second half. Gorman, again, he comes back. Did you mention the roster move yet?
Oh, I did in the last segment.
Okay,
Nolan Arenado
I just want to make
is
sure.
on the injured list, and Nolan Gorman is going to be now back into the mix.
Okay,
and, hey, you got some playing time at third base opening up.
You need it, right? Like this helps answer some of your questions. You don't want to be losing Arenado, who's making the kind of cash that he's making. You know what he is defensively. We also know what he's been offensively this year. It's been a far cry from what we're used to out of him. But this is another opportunity to at least answer a question there, because I still don't think they have full clarity on the group of guys that they want to have clarity on. Like, the only guy that they, I think, grown in his clarity was the one that was on the outside looking in, coming in, which was Alec Burleson. So, wow, I know what he is now. He's a really freaking good hitter at the big league level. He could play a corner. He could play first for you. He could DH. Like, that's about it.
It's the same thing on the pitching side of things. The one guy that is really taking his opportunity and run with it is the guy that I didn't think was going to get that opportunity before spring training, which is Matthew Liberatore.
Yeah.
So it's Libby and Burleson, two guys that on, I would say, February 1st, I was like, oh, cool. So you've got a reliever that's nice, a nice reliever, and a DH/bench bat type that you've got, and now both of them are prominent roles with the Cardinals moving forward. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm also going to look at some of these young guys in the bullpen, see who continues to emerge. I think that's what been a bright spot this year is that Memphis shuttle. Well, trust me, I know it sucks to be on that thing, being able to go back and forth. First of all, having flexibility in your bullpen is important, but who ends up staying? Riley O'Brien was part of that. He was in the mix of that bullpen shuttle, and now has turned himself into a late, especially with 3 moves at the back end of the bullpen, late inning leverage reliever. So who else does that? What does Granillo do with his time? What does Graceffo do with his time? You know, whoever ends up being in and out of this mix, how are they able to leverage that? What does that look like for the future? I know it's not the sexiest thing to be looking at. Is that 5th, 6th inning? What does that look like? But you need to find out. You need to find out what kind of arms that you have down the stretch.
BT, you mentioned you weren't surprised by the moves that they made of trading their 3 rental relievers at this deadline. Were you surprised, though, that they held on to JoJo Romero? I mean, he has another year of control. You mentioned the controllable arms and the value they had at the deadline. I thought they would listen on him and potentially send him out yesterday.
Yeah, and I do wonder if we got a chance to talk to somebody candidly about some of the conversations specifically about JoJo, what the return was. With having the control of JoJo, I think that's the big thing. You're looking a year ahead and saying, hey, if you're not going to blow me out of the water, if there's nobody that's going to be able to help me in the future, then maybe you end up hanging on to him. But yeah, I mean, anybody basically that wasn't bolted down, and when I say bolted down, I mean no trade, you're listening on. You had to be listening on at that point. It sounded like Mo was from his comments. It sounded like he wasn't blown away by anything. But the JoJo one, absolutely. I'm sure there were plenty of phone calls. I'm sure somebody could have wanted him. I'm just guessing the return wasn't what they wanted him to have, wanted it to be.
We're talking to Brad Thompson, BT in studio with us here for another few minutes, talking about the Cardinals as yesterday was deadline day here on BK and Ferrario. BT, now as you look at what the lineup is going to be on a day-to-day basis, I've been a little surprised. The first game that Ivan Herrera was out there, I was like, all right, Andre Palante on the mound. You almost never get a fly ball to left field. Seems like a really good spot to be able to give him his first opportunity.
There was a reason that he put him out there then, yeah.
And then 2 days later, they go right back to him in left field. Like, okay, is this going to become a regular thing now?
Yes.
Is that what the plan is? Is like Ivan Herrera, regular occurrence left fielder for the St. Louis Cardinals?
It's different when you're healthy, right? When Newt is out there and stuff. But yes, it's going because he's not catching. So they've already said he's not catching this year. They'll revisit it. He wants to catch in the future. You got a good backstop in Pius. He's had 2 lower body injuries, to borrow a hockey term, this year. So you keep him out from behind the plate. You keep his bat in the lineup. He can't plug up the DH all the time. That's how you get guys hurt, when you have that one guy that is there. Nato would have been a good DH option every once in a while. Contreras got to be able to get off his feet. Burleson, you have to be able to shift that role around. So I do think that him being in the mix in the outfield is absolutely something that we're going to see down the stretch. And I think that, again, does that help gain clarity on some of these other corner guys? Not really, but maybe it helps you gain clarity on what he is, what he can do. Because if being honest, in looking at Herrera and watching him the last couple of years, he's a big leaguer because of his bat. And you have to find a place for that bat to be. Now, if behind the plate, I think he's still got to grow. Like leaps and bounds has to grow behind the plate, and he's working to do it. It's hard to work on it when they're not letting you be back there right now. But yeah, I think it ends up being part of the equation is how do you keep his bat in the lineup, and he keeps working in the outfield. Do you guys like it? Do you like that, or does it throw out the big question again? What do we know about these other guys?
I don't care. Just answer the question, right? If Nootbaar is not the answer, well, let's find out if Ivan Herrera is. If Burleson can be, first base, corner outfield DH type, and you just kind of move him around depending on what the need is that day, cool, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I don't care where these guys land. I just care that somebody lands in a spot as an everyday regular for you. And to be honest with you, BT, with Ivan Herrera's bat and what we saw with Contreras, like the uptick that we saw from him both offensively and health, when he moved from behind the plate. I'm okay with Ivan Herrera honestly never catching again for the Cardinals. It wouldn't bother me at all because
can he hit for you? That's what matters.
It's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Can you hit? If the answer is yes, I need you in the lineup every day. And if it's harder for me to get you in the lineup every day because you're catching, then I'll find another spot for you. And if that becomes left field, great, man. I mean, think about the players that this team has put in left field in recent years. Matt Holliday, a great player. He's in left field because of his bat, right?
I mean, yeah. No,
Our guy Dunk. In left field because the bat plays. He's talked about that candidly on this radio station, honestly, at around this time of the day before.
I randomly got down a rabbit hole the other day. I think it was on Instagram or somewhere, and it was 06. It was the World Series. It was just like a highlight reel. Weaver's pitching. It's the Game 5, and I mean they got nuts and bolts, like everything, and they showed Dunk under a fly ball. And you see Jimmy running behind him, and then you see Dunk's eyes veer off and look at Jimmy, and then the ball clanks it. I can just picture Dunk telling the story. He's like, make 2-3 errors in the World Series, all of a sudden you're a liability. No, but you're right. Again, Dunk hit freaking homers, and he was a threat, right? So you end up figuring out there is a...
See, no, I'm not worried about it at all. I'm cool
there
with
is
it.
a line of, okay, I can't put you out there anymore, right? But I don't think the Cardinals have any of the guys that are like that. Herrera's a really good athlete. Like he'll be
an
fine.
underrated
in the
athlete.
corner. Yes, he'll be just fine.
He came back from the IL from the hamstring strain, stole 2 bases in a game. I think
amazing.
that told me he was an athlete right there.
I'm old. I strained a hamstring a couple of years ago at fantasy camp. I still feel it.
What gets you excited about this team the rest of the way? I'm not asking that as a trick question.
No.
I'm genuinely wondering, like, if you, Joe Schmo, Cardinals fan at home watching these games, like what gets you excited to watch the Cardinals the rest of 2025?
To me, it is still the young guys is still what gets me going. Like Walker, I have really enjoyed watching him the last couple of weeks and the adjustments that he's made. And candidly, I didn't enjoy watching him early in the season with the same pitches down and away that he couldn't hit. He's finally made that adjustment where he's been able to get on it. Is it always going to be perfect? No, but this young man's 23 years old. He's never had any failures in his life, probably at any level until he got to the big leagues. That's hard to make adjustments when you've never failed before, right? You always think, I got it. Like you do until you don't, right? And then he didn't for a while, and he's figured it out. So I'm really interested in seeing that. I do want to see what Herrera has. I want to see the evolution of Mason Wynn. I think that Mason Wynn, and you look at some of the offensive numbers, they've been really good as of late. I think when he really figures out what he is as a hitter, he's going to be even better. Like he's a line drive guy. He should be gap to gap. If you're thinking home runs, I think you're in a little bit of trouble. Those home runs are going to come for him. He's young too, and he's powerful. But I look forward to that. And then I want to see a full season of Libby. I'm looking forward to watching him again tonight and seeing what that looks like. I want to see McGreevy. These are your 2 young starters that you're going to have in the rotation seemingly next year. The young guys are what excite me. I already mentioned about the bullpen guys. I'd always been a guy in my career that had to fight for a job, like, no matter what. And anybody that's listening right now, you watch me pitch, you say, damn it, you fought too hard sometimes because you got that job every once in a while, and you shouldn't have. But I want to see these guys fight. I want to see fight down the stretch. The one thing that I truly believe you will not see from this club, I don't care what the record looks like. I don't care if they fall out of any wild card. I don't think that you will see this team just throwing their hats out there and just giving in because they're not good enough to do that. You have so many young guys that have to earn jobs, that have to earn opportunities. And I think that's what I think that's what this staff wants down the stretch is guys that are hungry, want to fight for it, and want to prove what they are next year.
So, BT, we just talked about the next 2 months. I want to go even further down the road for the Cardinals. Mo said the focus on the returns wasn't immediate to impact the future, and it sounded more of a long-term play for the Cardinals. How far away do you think they are from getting back to a contending window? I mean, they have really nice position players. I mean, we just ran through a couple of them. But then you start to look at their pitching depth, and I mean, it's no secret. They'll talk about it honestly. They're very much lacking pitching when it comes down to the minor leagues that's coming. So how far away do you think they are?
Man, it really is hard to speculate. And then you have the injuries to a guy like Tekoa Roby, who I thought would be here this year and then potentially be in the mix in the rotation next year. That one hurts. You have Quinn Matthews there, Liam Doyle, who they just signed. You could easily see him making an impact at some point. I would say realistically from a pitching standpoint of those guys, outside of barring going outside the organization, I would say probably 2 years away from those guys like being impactful and being in the rotation rotation, but then they still have to prove it at this level too. Like there's no definitive yes for sure here 2 years or 3 years that this is going to work. These guys still have to continue to prove it. What do you guys look at? What is your window?
So I asked this on Twitter. When will the Cardinals get back to the playoffs? Yeah, people are really happy over there, as you know, BT. 6% said next year they'll be in the playoffs. 35% said 2027. 31% said 2028, and about 27% said 2029 or beyond. So fans are, I would say, a little less than optimistic right now. I said
just the Twitter fans.
Yeah.
It's a different crowd, you know.
I would say 2027 would be the year that I would pinpoint, but BT, I don't know if you
Is that because of the work stoppage?
There's a whole... There's a situation
Buckle
brewing
up, everybody.
For 2027.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be fine, guys.
You know what? Honestly, the two sides are talking.
Yeah, punching each other
said,
in the face.
Fluff you. And the other, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be great. There's a divide within the players. There's a divide among the players and the owners. I'm sure it'll be really, really wonderful.
It'll be fine.
Can I ask you a quick follow-up on your Walker thing?
Yes.
So we've heard about changes in the past, right? Hey, he's doing this, he's doing this. There's a stance change. There's a swing path change. There's an approach change. And, like, it takes place, and then it switches right back to what it was previously. We've now seen this for 2.5 weeks or so where it looks like the changes are real this time. Why do you think it is working this time around, where it's actually clicking for Walker?
For me, the changes this time are actually tangible, where you at home, if I told you, hey, look at this as opposed to this, you would be able to notice there is a difference. The stance has closed off a little bit. The shoulder, as opposed to first movement going towards the third base dugout, is now going in a line right to the pitcher. Earlier, when we've heard about these swing decisions, because I've done this, because I've wanted to use some of these for a pregame little thing. I'm like, hey, let's get a side-by-side of old Walker and new Walker. I don't see it. Let's skip it. Let's talk about something else, right? Like, because anybody that athletically is golfers, right? You think, all right, I'm going to make this little swing change. Sometimes you think you're making a change, and maybe in your mind you are, but physically it's just not showing it. And maybe you are seeing some results for it. And sometimes just that mental change will do it. But at some point, if things are doing the same thing, you're probably going to end up getting some of the same results. Physically, he has changed some things, as we just talked about. And then when it comes down to swing decisions, they're so much better right now. Will that happen all the time? No. You're going to get in some funks. You're going to chase. You're going to get to the point where you feel like you have to end up doing more. But you're seeing him pick up spin, recognize it, and I think a lot of that is being on the plate more and seeing the ball a little bit better than being further away from it. And he is swinging at pitches that he can actually hit now. So will it continue? I sure hope so. I think that anybody that ever makes adjustments, I don't care what you do for a living, maybe it's you decide to wake up early and start working out, and holy crap, this works, I feel good. Yeah. You don't want to keep doing it, right? He made some changes, he's getting results, and he feels good about where he's at in his swing. That makes me believe he'd be more inclined to keep doing it.
I love what we're seeing with Wilson Contreras, and I'm not talking about the production, like the comments that he made the other day where he's like, hey, listen, I signed up for this. I wanted to be a part of the St. Louis Cardinals, and I'm not done here. I want to continue to be a part of the St. Louis Cardinals. I think that's awesome, because this is a team that hasn't exactly been, I don't know, the number one landing spot for free agent, like high-profile
shifted quickly in the last couple of years. You're right.
In recent seasons. And he's a guy that chose to come to St. Louis, and he wanted to be a part of this. How much value does that have when you have a guy like that he could go somewhere else if he wanted to, and he's choosing to stick around?
And his play backs it up, too, because there are a lot of people that will verbally say some things like, no, I just want to be here. And you look, it's like, do you? Do you really? Like, there are guys like where you can just see it. You can see he busts his ass out of the box. He had ground ball to shortstop. He's busting it. Like, he's sliding into second. I know we have new rules. I'd watch your lips because he's coming in. Like, I just enjoy
the play at first the other day.
I mean, he's going to go ahead and hip check you or throw a knee right Charlie horse on you. Like, he is fearless the way that he goes about it. And absolutely, that is something that, first of all, I think resonates. It absolutely resonates with the fan base. They love a guy that wants to be here, is energetic. And by the way, this is a guy that used to make you puke because he wore a cubby blue, but he's here now and he loves it. And it resonates with the guys in that clubhouse, right? if your guy that's making big money, a veteran in this league, is playing the way that he does, is passionate about being here, it's important. And that was one of the reasons where, you got to make whatever deals that you can. You got to do what you got to do. But when Donnie's name was thrown out there in a trade, I'm like, I'd like to keep him around. Not just the all-star production on the field, but the culture within the room. I think you need as many of those guys as you can possibly get. Does that mean they're not movable? Of course not. This game waits for nobody, right? So if you get the right deal, that's going to set you up for the future. But it is really important to have energy like that.
BT, appreciate you stopping by today, man. I know this has been a tough one for you not to go out there to San Diego, LA.
I could have been at the zoo yesterday.
But
around
go to the
Mission
zoo
Beach.
here?
I could go to the zoo. It's a nice zoo day.
Great point. It's a great zoo day. Romeo
I see
and Juliet
Ferrario out there
later on tonight. Yeah,
Romeo and
Ferrario's there
Juliet?
now. Romeo and Juliet. Very different.
Wait, excuse me?
You're not familiar with this?
No.
They do it's
Pray
like
tell.
it's like a little comedy show that they do out at the zoo. It's a
What animals are in it?
free. Haven't been yet.
They have otters?
We are going tomorrow, so I'll get back to you,
Please
BT.
do.
I'll let you know how it is. I'll send you a couple of pictures, and I'll let you know. It's a great time apparently for the whole family. So
I can't wait.
great timing. You could go there tonight, or you could watch the Cardinals versus the Padres, which is something else you might be doing today.
I can do both. I have an app.
There you go. He's BT joining us here on BK and Ferrario. BT, be well, man. Appreciate you.
All right, thank you, guys.
Coming up next, Junk Drawer here on 101 ESPN.
Blues hockey is on 101 ESPN.
Get the inside scoop on and off the ice with the Last Minute Blues podcast with Alex Ferrario, Jeremy Rutherford, and Donnie Fandango.
Blues opinion, talk, and speculation. It's what we do.
Watch or listen to the Last Minute Blues podcast on our YouTube channel or at 101ESPN.com. a part of the show. Text the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation text line at 314-399-9646 on 101 ESPN. 101 ESPN Sports Center.
New look pin hits Petco Park. Good afternoon. I'm Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Tonight at 8:40, Cardinals lefty Matthew Liberatore opens a 3-game series in San Diego against Mike Schultz Padres. Ali Marmol's modified relief corps, though, likely to be deployed later. Ryan Helsley, Phil Maton, and Steven Matz were moved before MLB's deadline. Ryan Fernandez, Rodri Munoz, Andre Gurriel will arrive. Nolan Arenado also IL bound. NFL yesterday's preseason action on 101 ESPN saw Trey Lance's Chargers wallop Detroit 34-7. Right now, campus-wise, Mizzou concludes fall practice number 4. This Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
This is exactly where you want to be, listening to us. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Let's open it up. The Junk Drawer with BK and Ferrario.
Alongside T-Bone and Bradford, I'm BK. Huge shout out to Brad Thompson, who joined us in studio for about 20 minutes here on BK and Ferrario. If you missed any of that conversation, be sure to check it out on the podcast page after the show today. It's on 101ESPN.com, the free 101 ESPN app, and that podcast is always sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
All right, I've got a few stories to throw your way today, T-Bone. Let's start out with Southwest, who had a rough go of it yesterday, boys. Don't know if you saw this, but in preparation for me riding on a Southwest flight here 2 weeks from now, they decided to halt basically all of their fleet for a few hours yesterday as there was an internet outage that did not allow for them to take off, and approximately 1,800 flights were stranded nationwide. Yeah. They also had their chairman step down after just 8 months as the chairman of the board. This is coming around the same time as Southwest has changed just about everything about the way that they operate. I personally still love Southwest. God bless them. But, you know, the whole we don't have assigned seats, that's out the window. Bags fly free, that's changed a little bit. Like the entire premise of Southwest Airlines has now changed, and yesterday was a rough go of it for them. Another flight story that I wanted to pass along, because T-Bone, again, you and Alex gave me a whole lot of crap about my, you would say, irrational fear of flying. For anybody that's not aware, when I get on a flight, the only thing that I can think of is we're going to hit another plane in midair and combust, and I'm going to blow up, and that's the way that I go. Bradford, that seems rational, right?
Very much so.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Don't encourage him.
New story was just released a couple of days ago. Delta flight diverted, 25 sent to the hospital after, quote, significant turbulence. Let me read you some of this story, T-Bone.
Yeah.
25 people aboard a Delta airline flight from Salt Lake City to Amsterdam were hospitalized after the flight encountered what they would consider to be significant turbulence and was then diverted to Minneapolis. It landed safely just before 8 o'clock local time. Some people said that somebody on the flight was screaming, "We are all going to die. We are all going to die." There were people that were flying all the way up to the ceiling of this flight because the turbulence was so significant. People, wear your seatbelt. They tell you to wear it whenever you're high. Even when that seatbelt sign is off, please sit in your seat with your seatbelt on.
Well, you know what? That right there tells me you're going to be a great flight attendant when we're done doing this industry.
Quote, there was no warning. It was very abrupt. It hit pretty hard. If you didn't have your seatbelt on, and not everybody did, they hit the ceiling and then they fell back to the ground. There were carts that also hit the ceiling and then fell back to the ground. People were injured. It happened several times. It was really scary.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
Quote, those carts are very heavy. We're very fortunate that we had seatbelts on at the time, but we saw cell phones flying around quite a bit. I have to hand it to the flight attendants. They were incredibly calm, well-trained, very responsive. I would have been freaking out. I would have been one of those people that was screaming, we're all gonna die!
Yeah, I was just about to say. You're the guy that adds to the panic of what's going on in that scenario.
The last time that I flew, my wife was sitting next to me, right? and we're on this flight. We hit a little bit of turbulence. We're coming back home from Pittsburgh. Baby boy is sleeping on Kara's chest. And the first time that we hit the turbulence, my immediate reaction is, just one of those. She's like, what's going on? Is everything okay? I'm like, turbulence.
Did you feel that?
It's horrifying. Flying is scary sometimes.
See, turbulence is the whole reason that my mom will not fly, because anytime we've done a family vacation, no matter where it's at, we would drive. Like, we've driven from little bitty Olney, Illinois, down to Disney World, which takes forever. We drove out to the Dakotas in Denver, Colorado, which takes forever. They drove it to Texas on the last family trip. I took an airplane to Texas. I was not doing the driving.
Yep.
And it's all because of turbulence. My mom experienced terrible turbulence one time, and it scared her from doing it ever again. I've been lucky. I've not had really any experience with turbulence. I've hit some, but nothing like super bad that would freak me out at all.
Same.
I've never really experienced this, so I'm lucky that I've been able to avoid it.
Yeah, we've hit a few of them. From the 636, guys, I'm sure there's some advanced analytics showing how safe it is to fly. There is. Like, flying is so much safer than driving. So much safer. Just like by the numbers, the odds of you getting in any kind of a wreck or anything on a plane are less than you being in your car today and driving to work and ending up in a car wreck, right? That being said, I don't know how rational this is, probably not at all. I feel as though I have some control when I am driving my car.
Sure.
Whereas when I am on a flight, even though my assumption is that pilot is much better at flying a plane than I am at driving a car. I have a fear that this guy is in charge, and I just don't know how he's going to react to any given situation, whereas I have some semblance of understanding of how I'm going to react into a situation. So I have a bigger fear when I'm not the one that is in control. Is that rational? Of course not. Should I be on some kind of an anxiety medication? Probably, and I'll probably get on that eventually, but here we are.
I used to feel exactly the same way. I'm not sure what changed. I'm not sure exactly what triggered the alteration there, but now for me, guys, the biggest problem that I have when going up in the air, specifically then descending as well, the preposterous amount of pressure. I'm serious when I say, honestly, the ear pressure and the headache subsequently for days on end. Something's probably wrong there, but it's about as bad as discomfort-wise as you can get. Seriously.
We went to Denver. This is 2 or 3 years ago now. I guess it would have been 2 years ago now because Luca was with us at the time. And we go out to Denver. Most of my family is from the Denver area, so we were going to see my grandma. And on the way there, Luca had a little bit of a cold. And we were like, man, is it because of what you're just talking about there? It's miserable, right? Is he going to be okay to fly while he's got this cold? He got over it pretty well, like right before we started preparing to get this vacation going. So we're like, okay, he's probably fine. But then we get to Denver, and of course, as you know, T-Bone, if my son is sick, 3-4 days later, I will be sick. There's no doubt about it. I get sick while I'm in Denver, so on the way back, I've got this head cold going on. We get up in the air. I feel fine the whole flight, and then we land, and as I'm going through to get our bags and everything, I can feel my ear. It's not getting back to the way that it was prior to this flight. Yeah. For the next 3 days, I was miserable.
Bingo.
It's brutal. When you have that kind of pressure in there, and it doesn't alleviate for a while. So yeah, I was doing the eardrops. I was doing anything that I possibly could to be able to make that thing go away. It's awful. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 314. Guys, I drove from Weldon Springs all the way to Orlando, drove to Mount Rushmore and back through Colorado, also drove all the way to Sandbell Island, and flying with kids is expensive. I've got about a 4-hour time limit in the car. If I can get to where I'm going in roughly 4 hours, I will drive there. I'll go to Kansas City in the car. I'll go to Chicago in the car. Go to Memphis, Louisville. I'd even consider an Indy trip that I can do in the car. If you're basically in the Midwest, I'll drive. Anything beyond that,
Yeah.
Nope, not for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I hate doing long car rides. I just start to feel cramped up. I would much rather be on the plane for 4 hours. The flight, I don't remember how long the flight is to Vegas from here. I did that on my 22nd birthday. So much better than driving up to Vegas.
Oh, my God.
So much better.
Driving to Vegas would be 20 hours.
Yeah.
It's 12 or 14
I'm at the
to
point
get to
now
Denver from here.
where I think I'm even like going to take the train up to Chicago rather than drive up to Chicago.
Have you ever taken the train before? I've never been on the train.
I've not done it. I think my dad
Chicago
did
or
it.
KC? I've never
Or my
done it.
sister did. My sister did in college. She's done it.
We're thinking
awesome.
about doing it with Luca. Have you ever done it with the kids?
Yeah, Chi-Town, the first time, their first visit actually to the Windy City came courtesy of the train. So not only do you get the experience, you have stories for days and years, let me tell you.
I'm thinking about doing it with Luca because, like, when we drive, obviously one of us is always at the helm for the driving situation. So you only have one of you in the back seat. He's got to be in his car seat the whole time. Like, it's a whole thing. On the train, you can kind of move around a little bit if you want to. I think we might have to try it out.
That's special.
That's what I'm going to do.
Go for it, yeah. I don't recommend, from a personal standpoint, just for funsies, don't actually attempt to drive from, say, Devil's Tower in Wyoming back to St. Louis in one fell swoop.
That sounds awful.
Maybe just a tad more than 4 hours. I'm not speaking from personal experience, anything like that. No.
Yeah, no,
Somebody said
that's
train
bad.
is good to Chicago if you have the time. How long is it? How far is it?
It's only a couple
For the
hours,
train.
I think.
For the train.
Oh, you're going to have some delays, though. It's going to take you upwards of, I would say, 5 hours, to be frank.
That's basically what it is driving.
Yeah. It's
for-
very comparable.
I mean, I was about to say, for a drive up to
Yeah.
Chicago, you're talking 4.
Yeah.
4 plus.
Tack
right?
on maybe
Yeah.
30, as long as you don't
I
have
think it was like right around 5 for
So
me
it's about
last
the
time I went up there.
same to drive as to go on the train?
easy delays.
But you don't have to worry about, really, the thing that's so annoying about driving up to Chicago is dealing with the traffic for the final
And,
30, 45 minutes.
Frankly, parking.
Oh, yeah,
Once you
parking's
get
terrible.
to Chicago, you're paying $50 a day to park anywhere.
Yeah, I was just resentment. Yeah, that was bad. That was tough to
Instead,
deal
I can
with.
Uber. I'll spend less on Ubers than I would to park my car for a 3 to 4 day stretch. And spend $200 to just park, sit around there. So I think I'm going to be a train guy. Going around the Midwest now.
I want to do what's that train that like takes you through the mountains in Colorado?
Said it's 6 to 7 hours. Somebody said 5 hours. Somebody said 6. So it's somewhere between 5 and 7 hours seems to be the general idea on the Chicago train.
All right, well, I'll
What were you
sign up
saying,
for
T-Bone?
that.
Sorry.
I don't. There's some kind of train that's up in the mountains out west that you can take that takes you up like through the Rockies.
Yeah, Denver.
That's
Close
the
to
kind
Denver.
of train ride I want to do. Like go to Chicago, like that's mostly just for my convenience. I want to do one like with the old man. I mean the nature, right? The winter nature of the Colorado Rockies.
The old Rocky Mountaineer, eh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be awesome to do.
Somebody said, I took the train this winter. It was roomy. Maybe not super clean, but nice to chill. With Wi-Fi, you can bring your own snacks. It sounds lovely, honestly. I think that sounds great. Somebody else said Amtrak to Chicago, about 5 hours, 10 to 12 stops. Price ranges anywhere from $30 to $50 each way. Not too bad. Sounds great.
Yeah, 10 to 12 stops. That's not too bad.
Who cares?
And you're only there for like a minute, right? They
I was
don't
about to say,
hang
it's
around
not like
a
you're
long
getting
time.
off and then getting back on.
Yeah.
Taking in all
Stay
the
the same
scenic
way.
I mean, maybe you want to
passages
go
in Illinois.
explore. I think it runs through Effingham, Illinois. You can be close to the home of the white squirrels.
Silverton, that's the train you're talking about, T-Bone.
So, yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Effingham, Dwight, just reel them off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we have learned today.
I think we do it.
We're train guys. You know what? We should do that for the show.
Like a
Maybe we
Shane Ferrario live show from the train.
Oh, that'd be fun. I don't know how great that would be going through rural Illinois for our connection, but I'm talking more like we do a show trip on the train. Like maybe
To
next year
Chicago?
we do a trip to Chicago or a trip
Cards,
to Kansas
Cubs.
City. Maybe we take a trip. Does the train go to Memphis? Do we know? Is there a train from St. Louis to Memphis? As I said, I've never taken the train, so I don't know the answer. But if there is,
I've only driven there.
maybe because the Memphis Redbirds are going to be every bit as interesting for the foreseeable future as the Cardinals, maybe we all take a trip on the train to Memphis together. If there isn't one, then that
I'll look it up because
that
you're
idea's
right.
already bunk.
I think they are going to be more. There is a train. Looks like it's from St. Louis, somewhere around St. Louis to Memphis.
Let's
All
do
right,
it.
I think we can make it work.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, we can.
Somebody said we
Amtrak
can
Memphis.
start in Alton. We do
Yeah.
a night in Alton together. We go out there.
I don't know if I want to be on a train ride after a night in Alton.
It's perfect. You can sleep on the train.
I think
and then we
the
take the
rocking's gonna
train
make me
out to
wanna-
Memphis. We can
Yeah.
all hang out on Beale Street. That sounds wonderful to me. Grab yourself
Yeah.
some $2 beers while you're out there in Memphis.
I mean, I could get the
to the
vibe
Redbirds
of what it
game?
was like to be at your bachelor party I wasn't invited to.
yeah, basically the
Yeah.
same situation.
Cool.
Speaking of deals, Tanner, to say nothing of all of the ridiculous promotions and hot dog centric stuff that they have available at AutoZone Park, buddy. Oh, you would be in seventh heaven.
Sounds like a delight. I think we're going to go ahead and do it. All right. Station definitely won't have any say on that matter. Definitely not insurance either. Coming up next, the most valuable commodity for the sport is once again starting pitching. We learned that lesson all too well yesterday at the deadline. We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
It's an MLB weekend on ESPN Saturday. Game 1, Phillies and Tigers. First pitch at 3:05. Then Sunday, it's Game 2. First pitch at 6:10. The MLB plays on 101 ESPN. WXOS HD1 East St. Louis 101 ESPN is driven by Brown and Crouppen Law Firm. They are St. Louis. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Alongside T-Bone and Bradford on BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Just look this up. Dude, Amtrak's great. What a cool thing.
I love how you're just learning this.
It's 2025
now.
Amtrak's awesome. I want Amtrak people, get in touch with me. I want to be an endorser of your products. Never used it, but I'm going to use it. We're going to go to Kansas City. We're going to use your product as I go to one of my buddies' weddings here this fall.
Do a blog on his train ride to KC.
See, there we go. Dude, this is going to be great.
One of our great institutions, kind of like the national parks. Wait for it, train to a national park.
Or just Kansas City. All right, he's Bradford. That's T-Bone on BK. Don't go too far with this, Bradford. Appreciate you, though. All right, so yesterday, I think we learned an important lesson once again. And it's not something that we didn't know already, T-Bone, but as I was listening to some of the general managers talk yesterday, I was reminded, starting pitching, still the single most valuable commodity in all of Major League Baseball. I heard the Cubs GM yesterday. He was on 670 The Score, and he was asked about, hey, why weren't you guys more aggressive? Like, Sandy Alcantara is still a Marlin. Zach Gallen is still a Diamondback. Couldn't you have maybe tried to, acquire one of those players? And he basically said, hey, for us to continue our success, we're going to need these prospects that are a part of our system. And we could have given up one. We were willing to do that. But it was going to take a lot more than that for us to get these starters that could have really changed the outlook for our team. T-Bone, we've seen what it looks like in the offseason. A really good starter is going to cost you $30 million a year. Plus, that's like minimum, and for many years. You see now what it is at the deadline where teams are, hoarding all of their starting pitchers because it's so hard to find them. And then when you have them, you don't let them go. For the Cardinals to get back to where they want to be, they are going to have to provide their own starting pitching from within the system. And this is why our open today, we talked about how this is now a rebuild. That's the primary reason why. Because you seem like you're at least a couple of years away from fixing your pitching pipeline. And until that gets fixed, you're not a realistic contender because you're not going to use the prospects haul that you have to go get that guy. And you're certainly not going to be paying for those guys that change the front end of your rotation. That's what makes this a rebuild in my mind.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the position player side, they've done a good job of continuously kind of churning through that. Now, it looks light right now, but we'll see if they're able to kind of fix that in the next couple of years. But yeah, pitching's the one for me to where the reason this is a rebuild is everything's just dried up on them. And they can't go out and sign the high-end starters that will actually make a difference. Like they got Sonny Gray on his deal. The reason they were able to get Sonny Gray on that deal is because he was older. They weren't going to go out and hand Blake Snell the 5-year deal that the Dodgers gave him. They weren't going to go out to the top end of the market and really fix this problem. They were just continuously putting a Band-Aid on it. So that's what the problem was for them. I agree. That's where they've got to get back to it because I think the only way you get back into contention for the Cardinals, I've said this before, I think it's the starting point for them. They've got to get back to the pipeline of developing their own pitching because once you have it, one, as you just mentioned, teams don't let it go at the trade deadline. They're not willing to move away from it because it is so valuable. But they also, it can help mask some of your bigger issues right now. You look at the Brewers, for example. They don't have a great offense, but why are they the best team in baseball going into the trade deadline? Because they have the pitching to mask that inefficiency, which is their lineup. It's the story of all these teams that have been good for the most part this season. What's allowed the Padres to buy time for A.J. Preller to bring in some offensive weapons? Their pitching was there for them. Phillies have a great pitching staff. You look at a team that has been disappointed, the Diamondbacks who sold at the deadline, their pitching wasn't as good as it was. So, yes, starting pitching is where it starts for the St. Louis Cardinals to get out of what this rebuild is.
We asked for your mic drops on the 101 ESPN app earlier today. The Scott Lee Heating mic drop feature is available for you right now. Is this team in a rebuild? And if so, how long do you think it's going to be before they get back to legitimate playoff contention? We do have T-Bone back on the YouTube stream now at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. Shout out to you, Bradford. Let's hear some of these mic drops. First, let's start with Nick.
For sure, rebuilding. They just never want to directly tell us it. The thing I will say is, though, you got to count on regression from teams around you, anything, and in every single way. I mean, the way Kyle Tucker's been recently playing, his number is going down to where it'll make the Cubs be able to afford it and want to do it around like maybe that $400 million number or less. I mean, PCA, don't count on this being what he'll be his whole career. I count on a regression next year. Just the other teams around you are always going to fluctuate in terms of how they are. I mean, the Reds are up and coming, really like what they have to offer. They have Terry Francona, who should have been the Cardinals manager 15 years ago. And, hate to say this, but, his health is always up and down potentially. And he's the straw that stirs the drink for the Reds and everything. And Pirates will sell off schemes at some point. Just in general, the teams around you, you can always compete. Whether Holt and Doyle are knocking on the door at some point in the near future, it's like you're going to have good players. I feel like I would agree with you guys in saying that perhaps after the lockout is when they'll fully take off again. Next year will be another season of who knows. 27 might not even happen. It will just be a shortened season again. I don't know. It's definitely a rebuild, but they have a decent future, I think.
I think he's trying to talk himself into it.
I think he was too. I think he's trying to get there. But I think he's trying to get there by saying, like, the other teams in the division will just be worse than what you kind of become.
Yeah. I think Nick is basically saying, like, hey, listen, I I don't know, like it's the Pirates and the Reds. What, are we going to be worse than them every year? And the Cubs, like, yeah, they're good, but like they're probably going to get worse. And the Brewers, like, come on, they can't keep doing this. They can't possibly keep getting away with this. I agree, Nick, in general, but also no guarantees. Well, like, the Cubs might just be good for a little while.
And then this is what my question would be, not to Nick, but like to ownership. Do you just want to be the best of your division? Because sure, like that can be a low-hanging fruit. I mean, the last team in the NL Central to win a playoff series was the Cardinals in 2019.
That's the craziest stat to me.
So is that what you're going for? Because, like, yeah, they can probably get back to that. But where my question would be is, what is ownership's goal? Is it that, or is it let's get back to being the team that we were in the early 2000s and a team that is pushing for World Series and has the stars to go out there and not just get to the playoffs, but be a team that can get to the playoffs and make noise when you get to the playoffs and have a shot at actually winning a World Series?
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. Also, the mic drop features on the 101 ESPN app. Let's hear from Courtney.
I'm always going to be a Cardinals fan. That's never going to change.
Yeah, boy, Courtney.
But I've kind of given up on the organization turning this thing around. Look, there's only a couple of ways to have a bounce back and become a contending playoff team again. And that's one, spend money. We know that's not going to happen. 2, draft and develop well, and then plug in a couple of star players. They've tried that. Wasn't good at developing players. It took them going elsewhere to reach their full potential. And then 3 is tanking, going the Houston Astros route. And that's where I think they're going. They're not going to say it, but you don't have to say things in order for us to see them happening.
That's good.
So
the tanking thing isn't happening. It's not. Like Courtney, I appreciate the mic drop. If they were tanking, they would have sold all of their controllable players at the deadline. You know who's tanking? The Minnesota Twins. They're not hiding it. It's out there for everybody to see. They are going straight to the bottom. They traded, I think it was 10 of their 26-man roster yesterday. The Miami Marlins, they tanked. They went straight to the bottom. The Nationals went straight to the bottom. The Rockies, I think they're just incompetent, but if you want to call it tanking, I could listen to you. Pirates, they're going straight to the bottom. They've got no real future in sight. Those are teams that are tanking. The A's, tanking. The Astros were tanking. When they bottom out, they sell everything. There is no need to have a Brendan Donovan or a Lars Nootbaar or
JoJo Romero would be number 1.
Yeah, JoJo Romero. These guys are gone. Get them out of here. Hell, Matthew Liberatore for a tanking team would be somebody that you do not want to keep because he's having a good season. Sell him while the getting is good, dude. They would, if they were truly tanking, they should have sold everything. They're not. And this is where, like, there is a difference, a huge difference between tanking and rebuilding. The Cardinals are not tearing this thing down to the studs. They are saying, we think we've got a core we can win with. It might take some time, but let's start developing these guys, and at the same time, we'll fix all of the stuff that we need to, and then hopefully it can come together in a crescendo, 2026, 27, or 28. A tank is nothing here matters because for the next 5 years, we're going to be dog crap. So all of those guys that are here right now will be at or near the end of their contract and will be getting expensive, and we'll have to overhaul it anyways by the time that we are good again. Get rid of everything. And for the next 3 years, that's the case. Anybody that's good, get rid of them because they're not going to be good whenever we're starting to win again, or they're not going to be here when we start to win again. So I think it's a really important thing to mention here. Courtney, I do truly appreciate the mic drop. I think that is something that you're not alone on. A lot of people have been saying that over the last couple of days. I just reject the notion. I do not believe this is a tank at all.
Yeah, I don't think it's a tank, and that's why I wouldn't even call it a rebuild because I think rebuilds are tanks. I think it is a retool is what they're trying to do. I think they're in a very similar spot to where the Blues were a couple years ago? Because you mentioned it. They feel like they kind of have a core. Now, I don't know if they fully know who is 100% in that core just yet from the position player side. What their pitching is what the Blues defense was like 3 years ago, I would say, just not with like super long bad contracts that the Blues had, where they had Krug, they had Falk. They kind of got into the spot where Krug now has fallen off of the books, kind of, not technically, but yeah, he's probably not going to play again, so he's on LTIR. I think they're in very similar spots where the Blues were a couple years ago are the St. Louis Cardinals. The tough part is I think it's a lot harder to develop and kind of fix the Cardinals pitching problems than it is on how much easier it was. I think it is, or how much easier it was for the Blues to go out and make those moves because there's a cap, so it's a little easier to kind of take advantage of teams. For the Cardinals, it's a little bit more difficult, and pitching is one of the hardest things to try and develop.
Somebody on the text line said Larry Bird's trash truck. They couldn't tank because of all of the no trade clauses. No, they chose not to tank. And maybe it's a full teardown, whatever you want to call the terminology. But what some are talking about, if they wanted to go to the bottom of the barrel, they could. And it requires them to trade Nootbaar, Donovan, Burleson, Liberator, Palante. Who else have I not mentioned yet? Mason Wynn would probably be gone in that scenario. Maybe Ivan Herrera. All of these guys, just get them out of here. Get the highest possible bidders. Give me more of these high A ball, double A ball guys that are 2 to 3, 4 years away, and many of them don't even need to be on the 40-man just yet. We're not going to sign anybody in free agency. We're just going to get like a bunch of Garrett Hampsons in here, and we'll just see what that looks like, and they'll win 55 to 65 games. We'll get a top 10 pick each of the next 2 years beyond this season, and then we'll kind of see where we're at that point, reassess. That would be the full-blown rebuild, the tank, the teardown, whatever you want to call it. That is not at all what the St. Louis Cardinals are doing, and they could choose to do that, even with the no-trade clauses. And my guess is a lot of those no-trade clauses would suddenly, guys would be more interested in getting out of here if that was the direction that they were going. They have chosen not to do that. You don't have to give them a bunch of credit for it, but they have chosen not to go in that direction. With T-Bone in Bradford, I'm BK. Mike McKenna, former NHL goalie, joins us next here on 101 ESPN.
The Redbird Report, your front row seat to all things Cardinals. From the dugout to the diamond, BK and T-Bone go deep with the latest news, notes, and analysis. Watch the Redbird Report on YouTube or listen online at 101ESPN.com. Spread Zone, where sports betting meets reckless optimism, questionable logic, and the occasional stroke of genius. With hosts Anthony Stalter, Tim McKernan, and Scott Rizzuto. Check out the latest from the Spread Zone at 101ESPN.com or the 101 mobile app. The Spread Zone is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Giving you the picture, the real big St. Louis sports picture. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. We're going between the pipes with former NHL goaltender Mike McKenna.
How do you like me now?
Between the Pipes is refreshed by Macadoodle Spirits, fine wine, beer, and cigars. Now open in Garden Prairie.
Alongside Tanner Hendrickson and Bradford Bruns, I'm Brandon Kiley. It's a Friday, which means that we are joined by Mike McKenna. It's also a Friday, which means Alex Ferrario is out today.
Yeah.
Hopefully he'll be back in with us next Friday here on BK and Ferrario. Mike, appreciate the time, man. Former NHL goalie, joins us each and every week via the Callier and Thompson hotline. How you doing today?
I'm good. Does he ever work?
Monday through Thursday, generally speaking.
Yeah. Somehow he got the 4-day week in his contract, Mike.
You know, this is the time of year where everybody's gone. The Canadians will say they've gone to their cottage. As we know it as Missourians, gone to the lake. But it's funny, though, like you always wonder which lake somebody means. You mean, like, the lake to me is Lake of the Ozarks. But, like, what do you guys think? Is Table Rock Lake fit that mold? I feel like there's more people going down that direction now than ever before.
I love Table Rock. I don't know if you've been, Mike, but I think it's fantastic. I prefer it personally over Lake of the Ozarks. I guess it kind of depends on the vibe you're looking for. If you're wanting more of a party scene, that's not exactly the easiest thing to find over at Table Rock. But if you're just going to, like, you know, hang out on a pontoon boat, drink some beer for the day, maybe go tubing out there, I love Table Rock. I think it's great.
Maybe, you know, swing by Macadoodle, stock up, get your canned cocktails, head out on the lake, enjoy it on the pontoon. Now, pontoon boats, though, for me, I'm thinking back to the rookie, well, it wasn't rookie party. It was this opening year. It was a start of the year party we had for the Texas Stars, which is in Austin, Texas. And we had a party on Lake Travis, and we rented a pontoon boat. Well, it was one of those that's got like 2 floors and a water slide on the top of it. And it's pretty funny to see, like, you know, 25, 30-year-old, 35-year-old tough guys, just bunch of dudes on a boat going down a water slide in Lake Travis. And, you know, guys are doing backflips off the top of it. And I don't know, just took me down one of my favorite memories. So maybe we have to recreate that someday at Table Rock, because that doesn't sound like a Lake of the Ozarks thing for me. It's a little different story.
No doubt about it. All right, Mike, I did want to ask you something. So in Major League Baseball, one of the big headlines is we're going towards a lockout of some kind. Like, a work stoppage is coming our way because the owners are desperately trying to implement a salary cap. The players are reluctant to do so. They basically say, like, anything that has a cap in it, we're out. We're not signing the dotted line. If I'm seeing this correctly, you were in the NHL right around the time of the NHL's lockout in which the salary cap was implemented, correct?
I just missed it. It affected me, though, because came out in 2005. Okay. I was drafted in 2002. My first year pro was 2005-06, which was the first year after the salary cap was implemented. So, yeah, it had a direct effect on me.
What do you remember about that time? The changes that took place, whether or not you felt like at the time it was going to be a good thing for players, and then how you felt maybe after you saw it implemented? Like, what was that like as a player as you were going through that process of finding out, okay, what does this mean for our sport?
You know, I was a senior in college, and being a draft pick, there was a lot of thought going into this, because am I going to be signed? Are the Nashville Predators going to have money for me? Are they not going to sign Pekka Rinne, which they ended up doing, and not me? Seemed to work out okay for them. It felt like to me that it was going to happen. Like, it was just eventually part of it, and where we were going to go with hockey is we expected that salary cap. But the more I learned about it later on, I don't think that the players at the time had great leadership that was able to stand up to a faction of players who eventually just railroaded everybody else and subverted the leadership, and kind of threw everybody into a pickle, man. Like I really believe, looking back and from everything I've talked to, that if it hadn't been for a couple players that really just sided with the owners and said, let's get it going here, that the players would have been able to hold on and not have a salary cap, and they didn't need to spend an extra year being off the ice. So it's all retrospective. It's all looking back in 2020 hindsight. But it sure seemed like there was a path forward for hockey to not have the salary cap. But now that every other sport has it, how can baseball not follow suit? And that's where I think the players are going to run into a really big brick wall, especially with the changing landscape, as you know, with, I mean, TV rights and deals and revenue streams. They're changing so rapidly that the players, especially in baseball, to me, don't have the same power that they once did.
And Mike, you said this did kind of affect you as you were coming into the league. How much as a player would you talk to the PA, both in your career as a player and also like coming in towards that lockout?
So that lockout, you know, being a college player, you really didn't get any insight into it. You were relying on your agent for it. And so everything was through them. But later on in my career, when there were lockouts, 2012-13, there was a lockout. I was in the Blues organization that year in Peoria. So, you know, I didn't have any chance to get called up until February, and I never did. Jake got the call when it was time, and rightfully so, because look at the career that Jake Allen's had, unreal teammate too. But, you know, more of mine was at the minor league level, at the American League, where we didn't have a lockout ever, but we were still dependent on the NHL because all our contracts were signed with NHL teams. So we were very much relying on agents and friends to help us. When I say us, meaning players who were generally regarded as, you know, minor league call-up guys, because if you're not a PA member at the end of the season, you're not involved in this. And frankly, the NHL PA at the time, I think they have good leadership now, but at the time when I needed them most, I got zero help from them because my last name wasn't Crosby or it wasn't a big name. There was a period where the PA just helped the big dogs, and if you were a little call-up guy trying to get your housing or your apartment or your hotel room taken care of for your family, it was like pulling teeth. So it really mattered. If you were a full-time player and you were a superstar, they were listening to you. But if you were somebody who was not a big deal with it or you weren't very involved, I don't think the PA did a great job of that for a long time. But like I say, I think they're in a very good place now.
Mike McKenna's our guest for just another couple of minutes here on 101 ESPN. Appreciate his time, as always, joining us via the Callier and Thompson hotline. Mike, looking back now, do you think that the cap has been a good thing for the NHL, for players, right? Like you're on behalf of the player side of things. Do you think it has been a good thing for the players of the NHL?
Well, that's a really hard question. I do think that if you look grand scheme of things, if you're in a plane looking down, what it did allow for to happen was that the league was able to generate a big pile of revenue over the long haul. Now, I do think that the league was really slow on a lot of things. The TV deal coming out of the lockout was terrible. It really hurt the league. There wasn't any revenue, but where it's grown in the last 10 years, it is almost hard to believe the valuation of franchises. So in some instances, yeah, I mean, the players have made a lot of money, but the players also haven't seen their growth of their salaries mirror what the valuation of NHL franchises are now. I mean, an NHL franchise is worth $1.5 billion when 15 years ago it was $200 million. And the top paid player in the NHL is going to make $12 million next year when, you know, Keith Tkachuk made 9 or 10. It felt like 20 years ago. So, frankly, I think it's been better for the owners than the players, but I think for the greater growth of the game, the salary cap has probably helped it.
Mike, speaking of contracts, we're at that time of the year where the Athletic is running through best contracts, worst contracts in the NHL. I'm curious, who do you think has the best contract on the St. Louis Blues?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me who's got the worst contract in the NHL. No. I'd be like, dude, Erik Karlsson's just awful. But, man, for the Blues, you know, the Holloway deal is going to turn out to be a big plus for the Blues. There's no doubt about that in my mind. But I wonder value-wise this season, like, I don't know how you can't look at Colton Parayko's and think that his isn't – I don't know how you can say that isn't the biggest value on the team. Like, that is an incredible contract for the Blues. Yet how many years are we removed from people thinking that it was going to be an albatross for the team? you're looking at a legit number one defenseman in the NHL at $6.5 million. On the open market, Colton Parayko is worth 10 plus today. No doubt about it in my mind, no question. And that's you can't even come close to that. So I think that's a value contract. It's a fantastic deal. Holloway at 2-2. Wow. But you're only getting one more year out of that. And he's going to get a big dog after that. So I think it's Parayko for sure. But there's some others. I do think that Doug Armstrong's done a good job with this. Like Robert Thomas should be 10 plus mil, but he's locked in at 8-1. That's going to look great in a couple, 2-3 years.
Mike McKenna is a former NHL goalie. We always enjoy our time with him here on BK and Ferrario. You can also see him out at Macadoodles. I just heard the doorbell ring. You love to hear that. Out in Darden Prairie. Mike, what can people look forward to over at Macadoodles this weekend?
That means that all sorts of fun stuff just came in. And I'm going to take it off the speakerphone. You know why? Because I'm actually really curious of what just came in the door here. Maybe I can tell the people that something interesting is arriving. Well, it looks like we're getting some wine from Adam Pukta Winery, a favorite down in Herman, Missouri. Is just walking in our doors for the first time. But we also have brand new Penelope Black Walnut Old Fashions hitting the shelves.
Ooh.
Jack Daniel's Blackberry. That's never been available before. That's now going to be in our store. And we have, believe it or not, guys, Oktoberfest beer, pumpkin ales. Fall has hit at Macadoodles in August. It's here. You want that craft beer, come and get it. We've got it all for you, ready to rock out here at Macadoodles.
It also feels like fall outside. So if ever there was I'd be like, nah, come on, man. It's August 1st. It feels wonderful outside this weekend. Get yourself a little bit of that. Go over to Macadoodles and then enjoy yourself out by maybe a fire pit tonight or tomorrow night. Can't beat it. Mike, appreciate the time as always, man. Thanks so much for hopping on with us today. We'll talk with you again next week.
Looking forward to it. Be good, everybody. Enjoy the weekend. Gorgeous out. See you here at Macadoodles.
That's Mike McKenna joining us as he does each and every Friday here on BK and Ferrario. All right, we were going to do One's Got to Go on the other side, but T-Bone, we do have a little bit of breaking news to update from earlier today. We will pass that along to you. One of those trade requests that I mentioned now appears to be a trade demand. We'll discuss it and what it means next year on 101 ESPN.
You can now listen to 101 ESPN on demand. Get caught up on all our shows and podcasts at 101ESPN.com or on the 101 mobile app. 101 ESPN podcasts are presented by the Schaefer Door Company. tire and auto centers. 101 ESPN Sports Center.
Post-deadline play resumes out west. Good afternoon. I'm Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Roughly 7 hours from now, Cards lefty Matthew Liberatore will start the opener of the 3-game set at Petco Park. San Diego acquired slugger Ryan O'Hearn plus all-star closer Mason Miller ahead of MLB's trade deadline. St. Louis, meanwhile, shipped Phil Maton to Texas just before yesterday's 5 p.m. buzzer. Tonight, third baseman Nolan Arenado rendered unavailable. He's IL bound with shoulder trouble. Nolan Gorman, however, returns. Football exhibition style, Jim Harbaugh's Chargers cruised past Detroit 34-7 on 101 ESPN. Current campus exploits, finding Missouri wrapping up its 4th fall practice. D coordinator Corey Batoon now extended through 2027. This Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
We're right back to more of it. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
I'm going to read you a statement. This comes from Micah Parsons on social media. Quote, "Yes, I wanted to be here." Just editorializing here. It's a pretty long statement, so bear with me here, T-Bone. "Yes, I wanted to be here. I did everything I could to show that I wanted to be a Cowboy and wear the star on my helmet. I wanted to play in front of the best fans in sports and make this America's team once again. The team my pops and I grew up cheering for way up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, I no longer want to be here. I no longer want to be held to closed-door negotiations without my agent. I no longer want shots taken at me for getting injured while laying it all on the line for the organization and our fans and my teammates. I no longer want narratives created and spread to the media about me. I had purposely stayed quiet in hopes of getting something done, but since there is confusion out there, let me clear some things up. I had my agent reach out to the Cowboys last offseason after my 3rd year in hopes of getting a deal done early. Unfortunately, the team did not want to start any negotiations at that point. I was okay with that, didn't complain, focused on the 2024 season. After the season, I told my agent once again to let the team know that we were open to negotiate when they met with me at the Combine. My agent informed me that I should wait for other deals to get done because the price would only go up, but I didn't care, and I wanted to secure myself as a Cowboy long term. This was before any of the other pass rusher deals got done." He then continues. He screenshotted it. So
this is a really long statement.
It's incredibly long.
There's no way he typed this.
"I knew I would be leaving money on the table, but again, I was okay with that. Again, radio silence as far as my extension. In March, I met with Mr. Jones to talk about leadership. Somehow, that conversation turned into him talking about contract with me. Yes, I engaged in a back and forth in regards to what I wanted from my contract, but at no point did I believe this was supposed to be a formal negotiation, and I informed Mr. Jones afterward my agent would be reaching out for thinking that this would get done. But when my agent reached out and spoke with Adam, he was told that the deal was pretty much already finished. My agent, of course, told him that that was not the case and also reached out to Stephen Jones. Again, the team decided to go silent. At that point, we decided we would allow the team to reach out to us whenever they decided they wanted to talk, yet still not a call or an email or a text to my agent about starting a negotiation. That was up until today. We have not had a... Again, another screenshot.
Holy cow. What a long trade request.
It's a long one. My deal was not done. Not a call, email, text. Up till today, hey, just real quick. Hey, Micah, when you're doing a screenshot, start the next one where the last one ended. Anyways, up till today, the team has not had a single conversation with my agent about my contracts. Not one demand has been made by my agent about money, years, or anything else. Still, I stayed quiet. But again, after repeated shots at myself and all the narratives, I have made a tough decision. Getting broken up here.
Don't worry, I think he'll still be a Cowboy.
I no longer want to play for the Cowboys.
Oh.
My trade request has been submitted to Stephen Jones personally. What do you think that looks like when he says, that's the end of the statement. What do you think it looks like when he says, my trade request has been submitted? Are you like, I'm going to write this on a piece of paper, trade request.
And go push it on his desk.
And then I rip it off, and I say, this is for you, Steven. I am requesting a trade, please. I no longer want to be a Cowboy.
Yeah, I think it probably went something like that. Yeah, that's probably close.
All right,
or he sent an email.
Your thoughts?
We don't. My thoughts. We shouldn't even be talking about this, right? I hate that the media acts like he's got leverage and that this has to be breaking news on Twitter. We throw out my favorite segment on our show, One's Gotta Go, to talk about a guy that's going to be a Dallas Cowboy because he has no leverage. I can't believe he took the time. I don't think he actually did it. His agent probably did. To come up with this long post wherever he put this, Instagram or Twitter, wherever it was.
I found it on Twitter, but I think he put it on all of his.
Unbelievable. Socials. Yeah, he's not going anywhere. Now, I don't doubt Jerry Jones tried some dirty little tricks to try and get him to, like, sign a napkin for his next contract. But, whatever. You're not going anywhere. If I'm the Cowboys, he's playing the next 3 years with the Star, at minimum 2, and then we can go from there.
What's the incentive for the Cowboys to trade him now? I get it. Like, if you're Micah Parsons, yeah, I would probably also submit my trade request. I'm one of the best players in the NFL. I'm the best young pass rusher in the league. I deserve to be paid $42 million a year. Like, that's what the going rate is. If you're an elite pass rusher, you reset the market and you get to be the highest paid at your position. This shouldn't be hard. The Cowboys screwed this up. I'm not blaming Micah Parsons here. Like, he's in the right. He should be paid. But if the Cowboys aren't going to do that for whatever reason, because they're the Cowboys, they do things differently there, and they wait and wait and wait, ended up having to pay full freight instead of paying, 90% of what they're worth. They did this with Ezekiel Elliott. It screwed them over. They did this with Dak Prescott. His contract is crazy. They do this all the time. This is not new. This is the way that the Cowboys operate. That being said, they're not going to trade you at this point in the offseason. To trade Micah Parsons would be punting on 2025. There's no incentive for the Cowboys to do so because the likely return will be just this haul of draft picks. That doesn't toll until next year. I can't improve my team without you until April of 2026. So that same deal will likely be there in February. So why would I do that deal today if I'm Jerry or Stephen Jones? Also, Jerry is just stubborn as hell, and he sure as hell ain't trading Micah Parsons prior to September 1st. So my guess is the way that this thing ends up going, Micah Parsons plays in week 1 for the Dallas Cowboys, and he'll play the full season this year, make his $20+ million, and then we'll really have these conversations starting in the offseason. It's entirely possible Micah Parsons will not be a Cowboy beyond 2025, but the way these things typically work out, there's no real reason as to why the Cowboys would trade him. The one scenario where it could get a little wonky, they're in the same division, so they won't make this trade. But like we talked today about 2 disgruntled star players at their respective positions, Terry McLaurin and Micah Parsons. If the Washington Commanders were the Cincinnati Bengals, and McLaurin played for the Bengals, I could see a scenario where maybe the Bengals reach out to the Cowboys and say, hey, we'll trade Terry McLaurin plus, a couple first-round picks, and in return, you give us Micah Parsons. That's the kind of deal that could actually make sense for the Cowboys right now, because I'm getting a player that helps today and also draft pick compensation for the future, and then both of those guys sign a new deal with their respective teams. But the Cowboys and Commanders aren't making that deal. They're in the same division. They're considered to be rivals. That's not happening. No chance that Jerry Jones trades him within the division. So I think he'll play for the Cowboys this year.
Yeah, I do too. And like sometimes too, like if the Cowboys were kind of in like a reset almost, like say they didn't have Dak, for example, and they were kind of one of those rebuilding teams or a fringe on the verge of rebuilding team, I could see how you just use this to kind of pull the cord and you end up getting the pick compensation that you're looking for. You kind of reset a little bit and you just kind of tear it down to the studs. They're not in that spot, as you said. They're a team, I don't think they're a playoff team personally, but they seem to think they are, and they're going for it. They made a nice pickup and added to their wide receiver room with Pickens in the offseason. So they clearly seem to think that they've got themselves a chance to be a playoff team. If you're a playoff team, you don't trade away the best pass rusher in the game because it's what the most valuable thing on defense is getting to the elite quarterbacks fast. How do you beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs? You get to the quarterback quickly, like the Eagles did in the Super Bowl. So you're not moving on from this guy when you're trying to get to the NFL playoffs.
Somebody said Trey Hendrickson and picks for Parsons, who says no. Cowboys. Cowboys say no.
Because isn't Hendrickson older too?
Yeah, he's like 30-something.
Yeah.
So he's older. He's still going to get a ton of money as well. Yeah. If you're the Cowboys and you're going to pay all that money, you might as well just keep Micah Parsons.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, keep the younger guy.
I don't think that the Cowboys would do that. I think the Bengals probably wouldn't do it either, if you were being honest. I don't think the Bengals can afford to do it because he's going to make $40+ million a year, and they already have Burrow, Chase, Higgins. When you have multiple players, like the cap, I know people say the cap is not real, the cap can be manipulated, all these different things. And there's some truth to that. There's ways that you can do it, but you have to have an owner that's willing to manipulate it in that way. The Bengals owner is not willing to manipulate it in that way. So they've got some huge cap hits for their quarterback and their 2 wide receivers, which makes it very difficult to take on a third or a fourth player that's going to have that kind of a cap hit that Parsons almost certainly will in future seasons. So they probably couldn't do it either. But that's the kind of deal. If anything were out there like that, that's the only scenario I could see where you get a return of a player nearing the end of their contract plus a bunch of picks for the Cowboys to make any of these deals. I don't think that's going to be available. Somebody said Daniel Jones and a couple of picks for Parsons.
What?
If you're another GM, you've got to at least call though, right?
Oh yeah.
Like if I'm an owner and I talk to my GM and they say they haven't reached out to the Cowboys, I'm like, then you shouldn't have this job any longer.
Yeah,
we at least have to find out what it's going to cost.
I like the other thing, like what?
Like the Bills should be calling.
Oh, the Bills would make a ton of sense. I actually love that as an addition for the Bills. Yeah, they make a ton of sense to try and add to their pass rushing core. The thing though is like I don't know, like your point on like sending something that could potentially help the Cowboys for this year. I can't find the team that I think would make sense for that because like it's typically would be like you're saying like a holdout for a holdout kind of where you're doing that. Well, like you mentioned, McLaren they're not going to do in division, and like Hendrickson they wouldn't do because they've got the younger version. I don't know who that team is.
Yeah, I mean. You'd have to go with like Detroit Lions, Aiden Hutchinson for Micah Parsons, right? Hutchinson's going to get a massive contract that's going to happen. He just has not signed it yet. And the reason why you do that, like these guys that don't have those bloated veteran contracts yet, they don't have the same guaranteed money. When you trade a guy that already has that money on the books and that salary bonus, the bonus structure, the way that it is, all of that hits your cap now. It accelerates. So if you have the rookie deals, however, those are a little bit easier to trade. So that's the kind of thing you would have to look for. Like the Kansas City Chiefs can't do this. I don't think they could take on that kind of money, but like they could trade Trent McDuffie to the Cowboys and in return get Micah Parsons. McDuffie's probably going to get a $30+ million deal. They're seemingly negotiating that right now. So instead of paying McDuffie 30+, you pay 40+ for Micah Parsons and give up the picks as well. Again, I don't think that's likely, but I'm just looking at the 22 draft because those are the guys that are coming up on these contracts negotiations. That's the kind of thing you'd have to find is somebody that was a 2022 or a 2023 high-level draft pick that is, you know, a stud at their respective position and haven't been paid just yet. Finding that guy is incredibly difficult, though.
Yeah. Has Drake London been paid? He was a 22 draft pick.
I don't think so.
There you go.
He would make sense.
But again, like if I'm the Cowboys, like to me they have their wide receivers. They don't need a wide out. So I don't know who this would be that they would be able to pull this off with.
I don't think realistically there's one.
And I just don't think Jerry's going to do it.
No, not before the season. I think off season, this is something that could make some sense for the Cowboys. Right before the season, I don't think it makes a lot of sense at all. That's the update on Micah Parsons. He has, according to his significant post that he has put on social media, he said, I've got a trade request. I would like to be traded from the Dallas Cowboys. I no longer want to be a Cowboy, and he has submitted that request to Stephen Jones.
I think I'm going to make the thumbnail BK request trade and just take a screenshot.
I've demanded a trade to the fast lane.
Out.
Jamie's out for the next week. He got surgery. I've demanded a trade. I no longer want to be on BK and Friends alongside T-Bone and Bradford on BK. We will get to the Rewind coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
Get social with 101 ESPN. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, Threads, Blue Sky, and YouTube at 101 ESPN.
Attention 101 listeners, you can join in supporting some amazing causes during Big League Impact's All Win campaign. Consider making a donation in exchange for fun prizes and giveaways from Big League Impact. See the full list of foundations and programs being supported by this year's campaign and find all the details on how you can help support this year's All Win drive with Big League Impact now at 101ESPN.com. Let's run it back with a daily rewind on BK and Ferrario. Brought to you by Gloria Lou, your home sold guaranteed realty. Selling your home begins at GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
Alongside T-Bone and Bradford on BK, it's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. If you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. That is all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
The 101 ESPN app, super easy to use. It is free to download, and it is sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. We've been available for you guys all day today as well on YouTube, youtube.com/101 ESPN STL, and those studio cams are powered by the Air Alliance team. By the way, over on YouTube, we did a special last night, a 1-hour special of the Redbird Report. It was live on 101 ESPN. You can see that now on the YouTube page. Again, youtube.com/101 ESPN STL. Appreciate all of you that tuned into that live here on 101 ESPN. By the way, another update from Diana Rossini of The Athletic. Quote, the Cowboys have no intention of trading Micah Parsons, adding that teams all around the league are indeed planning to reach out to check in on his availability today. So, yeah, Cowboys not trading him. Teams will check in, as they should, and we'll continue this song and dance over the next month or so. All right, T-Bone, finishing off the show today, we started out with the obvious, which was the Cardinals, where they're at today, where they find themselves coming off of this year's trade deadline. And I thought the guy that put it best for me today that I read about was from a piece that I read over on the St. Louis Post-Dispatch website. Lynn Worthy, columnist for the Post, he says, quote, let the auditions for the 2028 Cardinals begin. If that comes off as a smart aleck remark, well, it's only about 1/3 as snarky as it seems. He went on to describe how the Cardinals are officially in a rebuild. They may not be acknowledging as much publicly, but it's pretty clear based upon their actions, based upon where they're at. And based upon the words of John Mozeliak yesterday, they're starting to build for the future. And when they say the future, they're not talking about the immediate future in 2026. How do you feel about where the Cardinals land today?
Yeah, I think they are probably 4 to 6 years away from getting back into the playoffs / contention. They are so thin when it comes to pitching. There's not a lot to look at in the pipeline behind the current core position players, and they have nice pieces now here at the major league level. But, I mean, you're right. I mean, they were targeting clearly pieces that are further away, and when I see that, I assume it's going to take 2 to 3 years for some pieces to get here, and then another 2 years maybe for them to develop at the major league level. I think they are far away from where they want to ultimately be. I think this is going to be anywhere between 3 to 5 or 4 to 6 year plan for Chaim Bloom to get the Cardinals back into what they want to be, which is a contender.
Cardinals back in action tonight. They will be with a revamped bullpen. It sounds like Ryan Fernandez, Andre Granillo, and Roddery Munoz will be joining them in the pen. Man who will not be joining them in this series, on the field at least, is Nolan Arenado. He's been placed on the injured list. That shoulder. Had the off day yesterday in San Diego.
Probably lifting, really grinding.
Really started bothering him a little bit more, so Arenado's going to be out for at least the next 10 days. Yeah, really unfortunate timing is the way that I would describe it. Nolan Gorman's going to be joining them, and maybe there's a little more flexibility with the lineup now. So we'll see what the lineup looks like. Cardinals back in action this weekend in San Diego against the Padres. Pavetta versus Libby tonight. Pretty interesting matchup. The Padres, oh boy, they're going to have a revamped lineup.
And a revamped bullpen.
That's going to be a hell of a team to go up against. I'm legitimately excited to watch this game, less so for the Cardinals, more so for the San Diego Padres. T-Bone, is there anything that you're specifically watching for this weekend? I'm interested in Libby. I'm interested in McGreevy, those two guys on the mound against a pretty good lineup for the San Diego Padres. Obviously, the Padres side of things, you're curious about what they look like with their new team. I want to see Walker.
Yes,
Herrera, if he's playing in left field in a stadium that's not Busch Stadium, that would be interesting to me.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything I'm really looking forward to on the weekend for the Cardinals, to be honest. All their stuff, that like Walker, you mentioned, Herrera in left field, and maybe their bullpen arms, what they do in the back end, if they even are winning at this point in the series. All their stuff is more important for the final 2 months rather than whatever this weekend holds.
All right, cool. So
I just found our open for Monday. Cardinals played. Yeah.
Woo! Micah Parsons is still demanding a trade.
Terry McLaurin, still a Commander.
We got one more week before real football preseason begins. Mizzou's 3 weeks away from playing legit football, kind of. Week 0 is a few weeks away. I mean, week
0's got some good games.
Yeah, we're not
K-State,
that far
Iowa
from
State.
Compelling football stuff. We're 2 months away from the Blues starting up?
Oh, yeah, they're exciting. They should be good.
Got some cool stuff coming up.
Yeah.
I think Ollie Marmol's going to join the show next week.
Oh, I feel bad for him.
We've reached out for Bill DeWitt III to join the show at some point.
I'm not confident in us getting. I got a feeling, just a gut feeling, haven't been told otherwise. BD3 is going to ghost me.
Well, we can reach out. We'll keep poking. Keep saying, hey,
there's one thing
fans would love to hear from you.
There is one thing T-Bone doesn't take, and that is a no reply.
Yeah. You'll take a no.
I'll take a no. Yeah, I'm used to no. Trust me.
But we have reached out. We are efforting Bill DeWitt III. We're hoping to get him on this show. So fingers crossed at some point in the next, couple of weeks, we'll be able to have Bill DeWitt III on. But Ollie Marmol definitely will be joining us at some point next week here on BK and Ferrario. For Tanner Hendrickson and Bradford Bruns, I'm Brandon Kiley. Cat Dad Gamer says, have a good weekend, BK and friends. I have also officially demanded a trade. The Fast Lane's coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN is powered by Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's injury lawyers. Call 314-500-5000.